1 minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, and that free Odyssey app. And, of course, on YouTube, 855-212-4CBS, number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Michael Samter, Stuart Kovacs rocking and rolling with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And Drew Bledsoe is going to stop by in an hour 20 from now. Okay, let's start the conversation today with the San Francisco 49ers, who have an enormous game this weekend. We all know there's more pressure on the Dallas Cowboys than the 49ers. We all know that the 49ers are a bona fide Super Bowl contender. They're one of the top 3 teams in the NFL. Some people would say they're the best team in football. Currently, I have them as the second best team in football. But when we're on this collision course for Sunday night with this heavyweight matchup between Dallas and San Francisco, the quarterback talk is going to be the biggest part of this conversation and the biggest part of the preview of this game. And when we look at Dak Prescott, we've done thousands of segments and thousands of shows debating, is Dak Prescott a franchise quarterback? Is Dak Prescott an elite quarterback? Is he a great quarterback? And I've been clear all throughout with my take on Dak Prescott. I think Dak is a good quarterback. I think Dak is a really, really, really good quarterback. But when push comes to shove in a big moment, when the clock is winding down, final 2-3 minutes of a game, and the lights are the brightest, and you're in a big-time postseason game, I don't believe Dak Prescott is going to get the job done. And you've seen that the last 2 years up against the San Francisco 49ers. So this is a big test, and this is a big prove-it type of moment for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, where you don't win the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday night, and you don't punch your ticket to the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday night. But if you go out-duel the 49ers, then people are really going to start to take the Dallas Cowboys seriously. But on the other side, when you look at the 49ers, there's not a lot of flaws with this team. Even when you bring in a new defensive coordinator in Steve Wilks, you have a great defense for the 49ers, and we all know the type of player Nick Bosa is in the NFL. And you look at that offense, they're loaded with talent. With the offensive line anchored by Trent Williams, who's going to be a Hall of Famer. You have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, a phenomenal 1-2 punch. You have a guy that could win the MVP this year in Christian McCaffrey, and I think he will most definitely, as long as he stays healthy, win the Offensive Player of the Year in the NFL. But the biggest question with the San Francisco 49ers the last few years is what's going on with their quarterback. And through the first 4 games of the season, there starts to be that feel that finally the San Francisco 49ers have found their guy in Brock Purdy. And let me just say this right out of the gate. I'm going to ask you the question right now. Is Brock Purdy right now more of a system quarterback or is he a franchise quarterback? And my answer right now on the 5th day of October in the year of 2023 is that Brock Purdy is more of a system quarterback. Now, that doesn't come, in my opinion, in a negative way. You know, I'm not knocking down Brock Purdy. And I know when people say system quarterback, it kind of feels like you're taking a shot and you're praising more of the team around him than the individual quarterback play. But I just haven't seen enough of Brock Purdy yet. I know he's never lost a game in which he started and finished. That goes for something. But he's never played a full season yet in the NFL. And also, I hear Kyle Shanahan, and we'll play you the audio coming up in a bit, where he goes, oh, it's ridiculous to say that Brock Purdy's a system quarterback. Why is it? Because, Kyle, the last few years, you basically have told us with your actions that the quarterback doesn't matter. And it's more so your system. Because Kyle Shanahan is the guy that walks to the roulette table and he gets hot on a number, rides it for 3-4 spins, and then goes to the next number. And he thinks that it's his sharp and erudite ability that's going to ultimately reign supreme and is ultimately going to prevail. And look how much he has vacillated between different quarterbacks. You go make Jimmy G one of the highest paid quarterbacks ever. Then you want to give up on Jimmy G. You flirt with Kirk Cousins. You don't get your guy Kirk Cousins. All right, it's back to Jimmy G. Jimmy G can't complete the throw to Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. Gets the ball batted down at the line of scrimmage by Chris Jones' big mitt. And the next thing you know, you go draft Trey Lance. And they moved mountains to go get Trey Lance. There was also the Nick Mullins chapter in San Francisco, too, where he thought he could win with Nick Mullins. And we barely even saw Trey Lance hit the football field. And Trey Lance then gets traded to the Dallas Cowboys, and now it's all about Brock Purdy rocking out with this Brock out and looking pretty awesome. But that's where we're at right now with the 49ers. And this is the flavor of the month for the San Francisco 49ers. So it's not that Brock Purdy one day can't become a franchise quarterback. It's not as if I'm saying Brock Purdy can't be a great quarterback one day. But right now, Kyle Shanahan is asking Brock Purdy to just manage the game. That's what he's doing. He's like a great point guard in basketball that isn't going to lead the league in scoring. But what he's going to do is be great at pulling in rebounds, pulling in assists, and also just playing to the system that you're in where you have Christian McCaffrey, who's on his way to being the offensive player of the year, maybe an MVP. You have the 1-2 punch of Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. You have one of the better tight ends in the National Football League in Kittle. And you have a phenomenal offensive line. So it's not me knocking down Brock Purdy. And there's some stats that suggest that he's going to be a phenomenal quarterback. Like right now, he's on pace to have the second most touchdowns in the league in terms of running the football. If you go back to last year and see who had the most rushing touchdowns, which was Jalen Hurts. His numbers right now, what he's on pace for, if this was last year, he'd have the second most rushing touchdowns. If it was passing touchdowns, there would be 14 quarterbacks last year that would be in front of him. Because right now he's on pace to toss 21 passing touchdowns. And he is on pace to go for a little over 4,300 yards. And that would put him in as a top 10 quarterback last year in terms of passing yards in the NFL. And there were 7 quarterbacks that had more passing yards last year than what Brock Purdy is on pace to do this year. So there's some numbers that say he has the potential to be a franchise quarterback. There's some numbers that suggest, you know, Zach, you got to be fair and give him some individual credit as well. I'm not taking away from Brock Purdy. I'm not telling you that if it wasn't for Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy would be a bum. But I will say, if Brock Purdy was in New England right now with Kendrick Bourne and Juju Smith-Schuster and Mike Gesicki as his best options, are we even talking about Brock Purdy? No. If Brock Purdy swapped places with Daniel Jones right now, and he was on the Giants throwing a Jalen Hyatt. Oh, wait, they don't even use Jalen Hyatt, so I can't even say throwing a Jalen Hyatt. But if you look at the lack of weapons that the Giants have with Isaiah Hodgins, is Brock Purdy putting up these monster numbers? Probably not. And we talk about this all the time, and this is the inane part of the conversation. A quarterback has to be drafted in a good situation. And fortunately for Brock Purdy, being Mr. Irrelevant, he was drafted in a fantastic top 3 destination in the league. I just need to see more before I say that he could be the franchise guy. And I'll even look back to when Tom Brady first got into the league. When Tom Brady was winning Super Bowls early on in his career, did anyone say, oh yeah, Tom Brady is this elite quarterback in this league, is this franchise quarterback in this league? Or was it more so he was playing to a system? And then as his career did progress, Tom Brady was the system. And then Tom Brady put up these prodigious numbers. Look at what he did a few years later. After winning 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, he broke the most passing touchdowns in a single season, tossed for 50 at the time, had 23 to Randy Moss, and he put up historical numbers. And you saw Tom Brady then win MVPs more and more because he developed as a quarterback. And that's the thing that I think a lot of us forget in the NFL is when you're not the all-that quarterback coming out of college, you're not the top pick coming out of college, you're given more time to show if you could excel. And a lot of those quarterbacks that are drafted on later in the draft, they get better and better because they had a lot more work to do than some of the quote-unquote great quarterbacks and the quarterbacks that were deserving of being a top 5 pick in the NFL. So I don't think it's a knock on Brock Purdy right now to call him a system quarterback. Because if you're a 49ers fan and you win the Super Bowl this year, I don't care what you call Brock Purdy. System quarterback, franchise quarterback, it doesn't matter. But with what he's being asked to do right now, he has a situation to go win a Super Bowl. And the 49ers absolutely could go win a Super Bowl. So it doesn't matter if Zach Gelb right now views him as a system quarterback. It doesn't. Because one day, that system tag can be taken away, and through more time, he could be elevated into the conversation as a franchise quarterback that looks like an elite quarterback in the NFL. But right now, he's just simply getting asked to do a point guard type of role at the quarterback position, and he hasn't messed it up. And look at the no turnovers. That's enormous right now. So he is deserving of extolment. He is deserving of praise. But I don't look at Brock Purdy and say he's definitely the reason why the 49ers could be going to the Super Bowl this year. I look at guys like McCaffrey. I look at guys like Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, the offensive line around him. And Brock's in a perfect situation right now where you just have to be an above-average game manager. If you're an above-average game manager, you could definitely win the Super Bowl this year with the San Francisco 49ers because you're playing to the system that has an excellent offensive-minded coach in Kyle Shanahan and abundance of talented players on the offensive side of the ball, and also, more importantly, an abundance of talented players on the defensive side of the ball. So I know that this is a slippery slope here. And I know it's a conversation where then 49ers fans will hear me and they'll go, oh, this is just Gelb, right? This is Gelb hating on the 49ers, trashing our guy, Brock Purdy, blah, blah, blah. I'm not trashing Brock Purdy. I'm just telling you what I've seen so far is that he's playing to the system perfectly. And that's all you could ask for. That's all 49ers have hoped could happen, is be an above-average game manager to try to be the person that advances the ball across the goal line to bring that great organization back a Lombardi trophy. Let's hear from Kyle Shanahan, because he was perturbed with the media for asking if Brock Purdy is a system quarterback or a franchise quarterback.
That's pretty ridiculous. You just got to watch the tape. I mean, he plays at a high level every time he's been out there. And he's done it in a lot of different situations versus a lot of different defenses, on the road, at home, in playoff games, when injured. You can't do all that stuff. He's been out there too long. It's on tape.
He's had a historical start to his career. We're now talking about, 5 games in the regular season last year, 2 in the postseason last year, and now 4 in the regular season, where in games that he started and finished, he has not lost. That's tremendous. He has completed the assignment. He has understood the assignment. But my point is, I'm not ready to say that this is a franchise quarterback, this is an elite quarterback yet, because I still think he's going to get so much better. And part of that is you need to get off to a good head start being in a great system. And say what you want about Shanahan and him not being able to win a big game yet, right? Talking about a Super Bowl as a head coach or as an offensive coordinator. But Kyle Shanahan puts his quarterback in a good situation. And so far, Jimmy G looked like he was taking him there, then fell flat on his face. Trey Lance really wasn't given the opportunity. Whatever happened behind the scenes fell flat on his face. Purdy, to his credit, has taken the baton, and he's run with it. And if he could keep up playing this way, then they're going to definitely be a team that's going to be in it right at the end of the year and maybe hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. But I don't think it's a knock right now to say that he's a system quarterback because this is what Kyle Shanahan has designed. And if he is a franchise quarterback, then 4 or 5 years from now, he'll go out there and he'll show you that, and he'll get better and better and better, and then there will be more individual praise for Brock Purdy. So do you view Brock Purdy right now as more of a system QB or a franchise QB? That's the poll question today. You can find it at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb. Early returns right now, 73.3% say system quarterback, 26.7% say franchise QB. We'll go to you on the phones next, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Also, when we return in 5 minutes, we'll react to some controversial comments from Giants offensive lineman Evan Neal. It is the Zach Gelb Show, off and running on a very busy Thursday right here on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
I listen to you every night. I love your energy, and I like the way you tell it like it is.
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. We open up the show talking about Brock Purdy. Is he right now more of a system quarterback or a franchise quarterback? We'll get to your thoughts in just a second. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. I did see something, though, that was extremely funny during the break that Brock Purdy revealed in an interview recently. And let me remind you, he makes $870,000 a year. And we all know how expensive it is to live in the Bay Area in San Francisco. Like living in New York City in the financial district, people go, oh, that's an expensive place to live. And then you hear the prices about San Francisco, it blows the financial district and New York City out of the water in terms of how expensive it is to rent an apartment or to get a place in the Bay Area. And $870,000 is a pretty lucrative salary, if you ask me. But Brock Purdy recently revealed that he still has a roommate and he splits rent with that roommate, which I find hysterical because as someone... That's right, 29 years old. Brock Purdy's probably, 23 or something like that, right? I have a roommate as well, but I find it funny that the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, it's one thing when the talk show host Zach Gelb has a roommate in a New York City apartment, but when you're the quarterback of the 49ers and you could be playing in the Super Bowl this year, and you were the talk of the NFC Championship game because you weren't able to stay healthy last year, unfortunately, when Hassan Reddick came off the edge and knocked you out of the game. And then you also were the talk of the NFL for the second half of the season. I would not expect him still living with the roommate. But, hey, you also see the Arizona Diamondbacks, right? They advanced into the NLDS last night with their second victory over the Brewers. I remember earlier in the year, right as their season was getting started, Corbin Carroll, their sensational young player, got dropped off by his parents before his first game. So things like that happen when you're 23, 22, or below 30, where you still act like a regular person that is below 30. But I got a good chuckle out of that Brock Purdy still has a roommate at 23 years old, making almost $1 million, and is right now the talk of the NFL with what he's doing for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's go to Ryan. Ryan just dropped in Santa Barbara, so let's advance the conversation right now and get to a little Evan Neal, as this was a big story yesterday. So the Giants are off to a miserable start. The Giants right now are a team that is trending in the wrong direction. And the New York Giants were a remarkable story last year where the Giants were overachieving. No one would have thought they would have been a playoff team last year, let alone be in the second round of the postseason. Because you look at that roster, it's just simply not a talented roster. And this year, I was wondering with the Giants, would there be regression? And it was an obvious yes that there would be regression, but how much regression? And the Giants right now are in the midst of falling flat on their face because barring an upset in Miami or Buffalo, which I don't anticipate, the Giants are trending towards being a 1-5 football team. So when you're a bad football team, there's going to be deserved criticism, and there's going to be a feeling and a sentiment around the team that is very negative. It's just natural, especially when you're in a big media market like New York. There's a ton of coverage, and you're a football team that was the talk of the town last year, and now you're trending towards being a top 5 or a top 10 pick in the positioning of the NFL draft. So when you're in a situation like that, there's two ways that you could handle it. You could embrace all the negative noise and all the fair criticism and kind of just compartmentalize it, use it as motivation and try to prove people wrong, or you could fight back. And we've seen this just year in and year out. Whenever players go after fans, when they're on a bad football team, it doesn't end well for them. And I want to have a serious conversation about this because when I first saw the comments by Evan Neal, an offensive lineman, played at Alabama, first-round pick of the Giants, when I first saw those comments from Evan Neal yesterday, I'm not even a Giants fan, and I was irate because I thought he was dehumanizing and talking down to people that cook food, that cook hot dogs and flip hamburgers as well. Because he said to the NJ.com, why would a lion concern himself with the opinions of a sheep? That person's that's commenting on my performance, what does he do? Flip hot dogs and hamburgers somewhere? Like, that's a really low blow, low class type of comment from Evan Neal. And when I saw that yesterday, I go, wow, you don't need to have the guts to go after people that flip pancakes, because right now Evan Neal doesn't know anything about pancakes, judging by his lack of blocking in the NFL, because he looks like a turnstile in Penn Station. And I was really agitated by these comments because I go, who do you think you are? Where, yes, we know you're a football player. We know you were drafted high. We know you're making a good living, and you feel as if you're better than all of us, but you have to talk down to someone because they cook food? Just because you're not performing well? Just because you were getting abused on a football field and you got embarrassed the other night? Like, that just does not fly. There's a way to fight back. You don't go to people that cook food and basically spit in their faces and say, you're worth nothing. You know, I'm the lion. You're just a bunch of sheep. I'll devour you. And what do you know about football? And it'd be one thing if there was unfair criticism directed to an offensive lineman and he was actually playing well. Because a lot of times people can't analyze what goes on in the trenches. But Evan Neal has been a disaster this year. Evan Neal has been horrible. So I was really fired up yesterday. And then I saw that he issued an apology. And when an apology happens, you could accept the apology, or you could say, oh, what, did his agent write that for him and put it in his notes section and say, take a screenshot of this and then post it on Twitter? But the more and more I thought about this, I think it's just more of a product of society. And maybe I have a different perspective because I just turned 29 years old, and I grew up in the most part with always a cell phone in my hand, and we kind of learned about social media. And hey, when I was in college, which was not that long ago, I graduated college in 2016, not everything was recorded. Now you go to college, everything's recorded. Everyone's trying to have the viral gotcha moment. But Evan Neal is 23, and there's a difference. And Evan Neal grew up with a cell phone in his hand, with Twitter, with Instagram, whatever other social medias, and he's always been praised. Evan Neal was a dominant player in high school. Evan Neal was a dominant player at Alabama. And this is the first time in this young man's career and this young man's life where the majority of people are telling you, you stink, you're bad, and also this football team is going nowhere. Because he was at an elite level and on elite teams in high school and college, and he's not used to losing. So yes, it can come off as like a spoiled brat a little bit when this is finally the time where you're not having things go your way and now you're kicking and screaming and not taking accountability. But I really just do believe that the public noise and the public pressure got to Evan Neal, and he's never experienced this. And I think we could all relate where, yes, you shouldn't dehumanize someone and you shouldn't go after people. Oh, I'm better than you because I play football, and what do you know? You're just flipping hamburgers. You shouldn't do that. It's the wrong way to approach it. But I really do believe that this is just a 23-year-old kid that did something stupid. And he's on a bigger stage and a bigger platform than all of us. And if we all go back to when we were all 23, 22 years old, I'm sure we didn't operate things the right way when something didn't go our way. For Evan Neal, though, and it comes with the territory, it comes with the turf of being a professional athlete, just when you mess up and you do something stupid, the whole world sees it. So I don't want to say that I have sympathy for Evan Neal, but it is funny how in the course of 24 hours, because this story came out yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, so almost 24 hours, how my emotions have changed on it, where when it first came out yesterday, I'm like, bleep this dude. This dude's a jerk. Look at this pretentious you-know-what. And now I just think about it more. I believe that it's just a product of the era that he grew up in, and now it's the first time where a lot of this social media reaction is being very negative to him. Now, hopefully this is a learning experience, and all players should understand it's never smart. You're never going to win the battle of public opinion when you're going after fans, because fans, even though they could sometimes be ridiculous when they boo, and this is what Evan Neal didn't get, when he's like, oh, what type of fan are you if you boo? You're just a bandwagon fan. When fans boo, it's because they're disappointed. When fans boo, it's because they pay money, they go to games, and it doesn't mean they're entitled, but they're booing because they want to see a better product. And ultimately, I know it's not the case with all fans, but a lot of fans' hearts are in the right place where they just want to see the team win. And you have a Giant fan base that, yes, I know you could say, oh, they won 2 Super Bowls recently. The Giants have been one of those gold standard organizations with the 2 Super Bowls they won with Parcells, the 2 Super Bowls that they won with Tom Coughlin. But recently, like, there was a 5-year stretch where the Giants, from a record standpoint, were worse than the Cleveland Browns. And now the Giant fan finally just got some hope. Finally got brought back in. Oh, you got the right coach. You got the right general manager in Brian Daboll and Joe Shane. And after having 1 year of success where you get to the second round of the playoffs, there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of buzz with this football team. And right now they're face planting and they're plummeting. So when fans are booing you, Evan Neal, it's not because they want to see you perform poorly. It's not because they hate you. They just expect you to be better. And they expect the team to be better. I'll never forget when I was in Philly. And it was right after I was covering the Eagles. It was right after the Eagles won the Super Bowl and beat my Patriots. And their first game back, they're playing the Atlanta Falcons. Kickoff Thursday Night Football, kick off the season. I remember I went to a golf tournament during the day, had a great sports day. Went to the BMW Championship in Aronimink. Got to see Tiger Woods. And then later that night, went to the stadium in the press box in Philadelphia. And at the first half, the Eagles were not playing well. They weren't playing up to par, and the fans booed them. They booed them off the field in the first 30 minutes back after winning a Super Bowl. After the game, I was talking to Malcolm Jenkins, and Malcolm Jenkins said, I'm happy our fans didn't get spoiled with the Super Bowl championship. I'm happy our fans are booing because they expect a certain standard, and we didn't deliver it to them in the first 30 minutes. And that clip should really get blasted to all these players right before they think about going after fans. Because sometimes fans could get nasty, fans could use offensive language, they could get racial, and all that stuff's wrong. And I would never condone that stuff. But when it's simply just booing, and the team's not playing well, and you have a fan sitting in section 322 that spent a ton of money to go to the game, and he's not happy with the product, and he just goes, boo, Evan Neal, play better, you stink. It's not rooted in a bad place. And I'm not saying anyone should love to get booed. I'm not saying anyone should enjoy that because it's a crappy feeling when someone tells you you suck or they're booing you and they're upset with your performance. But to respond with it of, oh, these guys flipping hamburgers, what the heck do they know? Or, oh, these fans are a bunch of bandwagon fans. There's a right way to go about it and there's a wrong way to go about it. And Evan Neal went about it in the wrong way. But with that being said, now, like about 24 hours later, I just really do believe that this guy has never heard a ton of criticism because he has been the lion, as he liked to say, in high school and also in college. And last year was a successful year for the team, but now this year it's been a disaster. And the offensive line has been one of the biggest problems why the Giants have been this bad. And Evan Neal has been horrible. And the offensive line position is not usually forgiven. You don't usually get a lot of public praise because the only time we usually talk about the offensive line is when you're not playing well. So there's an understanding because of where he grew up in, always having a phone in his hand and always seeing everything, why I could guess that he reacted off emotion and there was a lot coming his way. It doesn't make it right. Now, hopefully moving on in the future, when there are negative moments, he doesn't lash out the way that he lashed out yesterday. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. I think we got the phones back up and working. Let's go back to the Brock Purdy conversation on if he's a franchise quarterback or a system quarterback. We go to Ryan in Santa Barbara next up on CBS Sports Radio. Ryan, what's happening?
Zach, my man, what is going on out in New York? Of course, Brock Purdy is a franchise QB. Who holds the number one spot in passing yards right now? That is what? Mr. Relevant. And let me ask you this. If Jalen Hurts went to your awful New England Patriots with the mumbler, he would, too, be as awful as if Brock Purdy was there.
Well, I don't know about
Number
that
three,
because Jalen Hurts has a ton of mobility.
You put Philly ahead of the Niners.
Yes.
And they had a measly 3 touchdowns against the number 29th ranked defense in the god-awful Commanders, who even I can't even imagine you have to watch this game tonight against Chicago. But you put Philly above the Niners?
Yes,
in number
because they're both undefeated and they beat you last
year.
year. Because they're both undefeated and beat you last year. There's a tiebreaker there. I'm not saying the 49ers suck. I said they're the second best team in the league. You don't know that. You don't know that. The Eagles never got blown out once last year. How could you say that they would definitely beat them?
Come on. And then
no, answer the question. Answer the question. Answer the question how you know for sure that the 49ers would have won that game last year if they had Brock Purdy. Enlighten me. Enlighten me. How could you say hands down? Explain it. Don't just say hands down. Enlighten me. Explain.
More weapons, better defense, better offense. Look at the stats.
How do they have more weapons?
What do you mean?
Let me ask you this. Would you rather have Debo and Ayuk? Would you rather have Debo and Ayuk or A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith?
Debo and Ayuk.
I would rather have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith.
Ayuk is leading the NFL as well. That guy is insane.
I'll give you McCaffrey, but would you rather have Jalen Hurts or Brock Purdy? Which one? Which one? Answer that question.
Wait, tell me.
Jalen Hurts or Brock Purdy? Which one would you rather have?
Brock Purdy.
Okay, that's because you're a 49ers fan. I'm not even an Eagles fan. Everyone accuses me of being an Eagles fan. I root for the Patriots, for crying out loud. All right? They beat my team in the Super Bowl. But if you look at this objectively, the 49ers had a great defense last year. The Eagles did too. Then on the offensive side of the ball, I'd rather have Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy. Offensive line, the Eagles had like 4 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line last year. I'd rather have the Eagles' offensive line. Wide receivers, rather have the Eagles. Tight end, 49ers. Running back, 49ers. But this idea from 49ers fans that they would have blown out the Eagles last year if Brock Purdy was healthy, nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And that was my issue with Debo. If you want to say you would have beat them by a few points, I get it. But a blowout, that's just being disrespectful. It really is being disrespectful. All righty, we'll take a break here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. When we come on back, QBs that are heading for a divorce with their current teams, but standing by first with the latest CBS Sports Radio update is the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio.
Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. It might be darkest before the dawn for the Bears. They're 0-4 heading into Washington tonight to kick off Week 5 of the NFL season. They could wind up with the 2 top picks in next year's draft. At the rate they're going, that would mean moving on from former first-round pick Justin Fields, the Bears quarterback. Not concerned right now with putting up numbers. I should say he's more concerned with putting up wins, not stats.
At this point, winning is just the number one thing on my mind. So I'd rather do that than accomplish any individual goal or individual statistic than that there is.
The first 4 weeks couldn't go any worse, with their defensive coordinator stepping down for personal reasons and wide receiver Chase Claypool banned from the team right now. The Commanders started the year with a pair of wins, but are coming off back-to-back losses to the Bills and Eagles, the latter coming in overtime on Sunday. Joel Embiid will reportedly play for Team USA at the upcoming Summer Olympics in Paris. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio Online, Maggie? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube.
And in the palm of your hand, pearl off with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining.
1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air.
Can these GMs, can these scouts, can these executives, can they do their job and not be disgraceful to the National Football League? Because every stinking year, we hear these types of questions that are asked. And how does that help you evaluate a good football player? How? I just don't get it.
This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. So I broke up with my quarterback as a fan this past weekend. I put it out on social media, a photo of Mac Jones and I at the Super Bowl where it looked like I could be his offensive lineman, maybe his right tackle. And I just said, Mac, this isn't going to work. I know this relationship is over. And it felt very free. I feel like a free person now where I don't have to think, maybe they do this, maybe they do that. That they'll find a way to get the job done. With how important it is on that rookie contract to take advantage, I do believe the Patriots failed Mac Jones, where they wasted last year coming off a playoff year, and then this year they don't get him a number one wide receiver. But when they drafted him, I never said he could be great. I thought he had the apex of being a good quarterback, but until you put the player in a position to succeed, we're never going to be able to evaluate that. And now, going on year number 3, I think that ship has already sailed. Patriots probably going to a top 10 draft pick this year. So it does feel as if you're going to have, with this football team, them drafting a quarterback this year. So let's do, we could bypass the Patriots on this, Stu, but let's go through the other teams that people are maybe iffy on their quarterbacks and see if those fans are also going to be heading to a divorce as well.
The New York Jets.
Well, their actual quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, is coming back next year. So that means the future of Zach Wilson is one where you have to move on. And I know everyone's up in arms because Rodney Harrison said that Zach Wilson is a garbage quarterback. Even if you didn't like the way that it was done coming off Zach Wilson's best performance, there's been enough tape to suggest that Zach Wilson isn't the quarterback. And for Zach Wilson, he can't be on the Jets next year, even if Rodgers loves him. Because if Rodgers gets hurt again, you need a better backup quarterback, as we're seeing this year, where the Jets have a good roster, but Zach Wilson isn't able to find a way to lead them. Even outside of one really good game, they still lost the game. And we saw last year, right, when Zach was the quarterback, they benched him and the whole locker room did turn against him.
The Atlanta Falcons.
I do believe next year the Falcons will have a new quarterback. Or bare minimum, they'll have more competition around Desmond Ridder. Because this Falcons team can win the NFC South this year. And you look at that team, the offensive line has to get better. But you have Bijan Robinson. You have Tyler Algier. You have Drake London and Kyle Pitts. That's an attractive destination. Like, we've seen quarterbacks recently, Brady leave the Pats to go to the Bucs. We've seen Stafford leave the Lions to go to the Rams, right? Even Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, even though that has not worked out, they become available. Rodgers this past year. If you're a veteran quarterback and you're looking for a better destination, well, there's really no dominant team in the NFC South right now, and you have a ton of talent with the good offensive-minded head coach in Arthur Smith. I do believe the Falcons are an attractive destination. And Desmond Ridder, I think he's just a guy that could be an average quarterback. I don't think he has a ceiling of being very good or great.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
I kind of feel as if Kenny Pickett is trending more in the category of Mac Jones than someone that's going to be a franchise quarterback, where you could question the Steelers' approach. Matt Canada shouldn't be the offensive coordinator, right? The offensive line has been up and down. I know Freiermuth is hurt, but you have a good tight end. Najee Harris, the last 2 years, has put up 1,000-yard rushing seasons, but he has not clicked, and it doesn't look like he's going to be a long-term great running back. You have Pickens, who's there, who's solid. Like, there should be enough where we should see more out of Kenny Pickett, but I feel as if Kenny Pickett's going to be very similar to Mac Jones, whether it's the environment or his lack of ability, where in a few years from now, the rookie contract's going to come and go, and you're going to be saying, wow, the Steelers need a new quarterback.
The Denver Broncos.
I think after the 2024 season, this is going to be it for Russell Wilson in Denver. I do think he'll play okay enough individually where they'll be able to justify bringing him back next year and then have the dead cap go down with having him on the roster for another season. But with that being said, you know how this goes. The Broncos are horrible this year. They're probably going to be horrible again next year. People already turned on Russ, and deservedly so. The next person they're going to turn on is Sean Payton, and Sean's going to get the luxury of bringing in a new quarterback. So I think that they try to salvage this marriage. Like, they're in couples therapy right now, where you know that probably you're going to the divorce route, but maybe there's just some little minuscule chance that you're able to save the relationship. I think this is just another year of couples therapy, and then after 2024, Russell Wilson will be, I guess, on a new team, or he'll be somewhere else, but it won't be with the Denver Broncos.
The Chicago Bears.
Yeah, Justin Fields is getting traded after this offseason because the Bears are going to blow this up. Ryan Poles won't be back next year as the general manager. Matt Eberflus has even Peter King speculating that he could get fired after tonight's game up against the Commanders. I don't really believe that, but the Bears are headed towards having 2 top 5 picks in the 2024 NFL draft. Even if there's questions, is it the organization or is it more so on field? You're going to do a complete reset where you get rid of the head coach, the GM, and the quarterback. So Justin Fields will be divorced from the Bears after this season.
The Tennessee Titans.
Ryan Tannehill will be on a new team next year. I think he's someone that could compete for a starting job. I don't think he's going to go somewhere where he's an automatic starting quarterback. Maybe one of those situations where you don't want to go to your young quarterback right away, so you play Ryan Tannehill, who's a consummate professional. He had his opportunity to win. He did better than what anyone could have expected in Tennessee, eventually replacing Marcus Mariota. But he's reached his ceiling in Tennessee, and Tennessee brought in a new general manager this past offseason. Mike Vrabel is still there. His contract is coming up as well. I believe Ryan Tannehill is on a new team this time next year.
The New York Giants.
I think after the 2024 season, because really this is a 2-year deal for Daniel Jones, the way that the salary is structured, I do believe Daniel Jones gets one more year. I do believe Daniel Jones will be more bad than good, and Daniel Jones after the 2024 season will get cut or get traded by the New York Football Giants.
The Minnesota Vikings.
I think there's a 50-50 chance Kirk Cousins can be back next year with the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think it will be by design. I don't think it will be their preference to bring him back. You got to remember he's in the final year of his contract. The question just becomes, can you find better than Kirk Cousins? And I do believe the average football fan will say, yeah, of course. Kirk Cousins is just a really good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback. But the Vikings have some pieces there. And this year they're off to a horrible start. We know last year they won 13 games and they overachieved. I didn't think they would be this bad this year. You knew that there was going to be some natural regression. But you look at Kirk Cousins, if they can't immediately find that next guy, I could see them giving Kirk another year or two on a contract, or maybe it's like 1 year and then you could get out of it after 1 year and it's really like a 2-year kind of contract. I do believe that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell are going to look to get a divorce after this year, but sometimes you're going to go back to old reliable Kirk Cousins because you know he can be good to just really prevent this ship from sinking. But you could argue right now that the ship is sinking with the Minnesota Vikings. So I would lean more that he's not back, but it wouldn't shock me if he is back because I just don't know if they're going to be able to immediately find the next right guy this upcoming offseason. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Drew Bledsoe is going to join us coming up 25 minutes from now. But when we come on back, are the Bears heading to an 0-17 season? And also, we have 2 undefeated teams remaining in the NFL after the Dolphins did go down last weekend. Will either the Eagles or the 49ers make history and go undefeated this year? We're talking that on the other side. Zach Gelb here with you, but where else? CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, we continue. This is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Hour number 2 of our radio program. Supposed to be joined by Drew Bledsoe coming up in about 20 minutes from now. So we have 2 undefeated teams remaining in the NFL, and then 2 teams that are still looking for their first win. Let's start with the 2 undefeated teams in the Eagles and the 49ers. And this could be a premature conversation, but when you're 4 weeks into a season and you're sitting there at 4-0, and there's only 2 teams that are remaining that are undefeated, the natural conversation of, is there any chance that these teams are going to go undefeated in the regular season? And let me be clear. I think the world of the Eagles and the 49ers, to me, they're the 2 best teams in the NFL. And they're on this collision course where they should be in the NFC Championship game. But with all that being said, neither of these teams are going undefeated. And it's very simply this. It's not, I don't think either of these teams are as great as they're playing, because I do believe the Eagles could play better. And San Francisco, right, you haven't even seen a full season yet of Brock Purdy, and look what they're doing right now. But just look at their schedules. And you could have tough opponents and still find a way to beat them, but it matters when you're playing those opponents. And you look at the stretch for the Eagles. In November, they play Dallas. They then hit the bye week. They have Kansas City at Arrowhead on November 20th. They play Buffalo. They play San Francisco. Then they're in Dallas, and they're at Seattle. So that's a stretch of 6 straight games where those are all playoff teams, and besides the Seahawks, potentially Super Bowl teams. The Eagles are going to lose one of those games. Now, the Eagles could be undefeated until then, where they could beat the Rams, they could beat the Jets, they could beat the Dolphins, they could beat the Commanders, and they could be sitting there with 8 wins, but you're not going to walk out of Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas, and Seattle and still be undefeated. I just don't see it. Now, for San Francisco, big test this week up against Dallas. But for them, they have a tough 3-game stretch where it's at Seattle on Thursday night, November 23rd. Then they're at Philadelphia on December 3rd. And then they once again play a divisional team in Seattle for the second time in the span of 3 weeks on Sunday, December 10th. I got to think that the 49ers are going to drop one of those games. You know, if I had to predict one team to be undefeated against the other, it would actually be San Francisco, even though I do believe the Eagles are a better team, because it's just the way that the schedule breaks up for them. Like, you could tell me that they could be undefeated going into that Seattle game. You play Dallas, big game this Sunday night. That's not a guaranteed victory. You should beat Cleveland. You should beat Minnesota. Who knows where the Bengals are going to be at after that? Then you get a bye week. Jaguars are a good team. Tampa Bay is a solid team. But you're only asking them to then go survive Seattle, Philadelphia, Seattle. And then after that, if you get through that undefeated, then it's Arizona, Ravens, Washington, and the Rams. So really, that's one game there that really makes you shake in your boots in the Ravens. Like, the Cardinals aren't great. The Commanders are solid, and, you know, we'll still see if the Rams are solid. So it's a better percentage of chance, in my opinion, that the Niners would go undefeated, but I don't think they're going to go undefeated because that is a tough 3-game stretch. Seattle, Philadelphia, Seattle, compared to when you look at Philadelphia, it's like that's a gauntlet of 6 straight games with Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas, and then you're at Seattle. They're definitely going to lose one of those games because if you could win all 6 of those games, man, that's going to be really impressive, but I just don't see it. So probably both of those teams at the end of the year are going to be looking at, 2-3 losses, and home field advantage, it's going to be enormous for both those teams. We know how crazy Eagles fans are. We know how crazy San Francisco 49ers fans are, and you're on this collision course where, yes, I know the Dallas Cowboys fans are going to want to send a message on Sunday night, but I still view the Cowboys as more of a pretender than a contender when you view them compared to Philadelphia and San Francisco. But maybe home field advantage will determine who ends up advancing to the Super Bowl this year and going to Vegas to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Now, when you get to the 2 teams that don't have a win yet, the Chicago Bears are the Thursday night matchup tonight as they go to FedEx Field, which is maybe the worst stadium in sports right now. It's the worst stadium in the NFL. It's an absolute dump. And you have the Bears and the Commanders. This game, a friend of mine said to me, we're going out for dinner after the show. And I said, I got to get to dinner by 7 because I got to get in front of a TV by 8:15 to watch the game. He goes, you really have to watch this game between the Bears and the Commanders? And I go, yes. I do a national radio show. I got to watch the games. I'm not a talk show host that just likes to pontificate and lecture you about sports and not actually watch the games. I pride myself on watching the games. It's something simple, but something that's important. But I think of Al Michaels, and I don't want to say I feel bad for Al Michaels because, right, legendary broadcaster, creme de la creme broadcaster, and is getting paid a ton of money. Like, broadcaster problems aren't real world problems. But for Al Michaels, with the horrible slate that he had last year on Thursday Night Football, you're now in the 5th week of the season, and you have to call this game tonight between the Bears and the Commanders. Like, let's be real. The only way that this game can be entertaining, there's maybe 2 ways, is if it's so bad that it actually becomes comical, or you have a little skin in the game in the betting world when you have the Commanders and the Bears. And the Commanders are a solid football team. I like Eric Bieniemy. I think he should be a head coach in this league. Ron Rivera, I think he's coming to the end of his road as a head coach. I really do. I don't like how he handled the quarterback situation last year. I don't like what he said about Eric Bieniemy this offseason, right before the start of the season. And then also, you take a look last week, your name is Riverboat Ron. How are you not aggressive? How are you not gambling? How are you not going for the win in Philadelphia when you get a last-second touchdown and you have a chance to go win the game right there and go for a 2-point conversion? I think Rivera, who's been a very good coach in this league, we know what he did with the Panthers when they went to the Super Bowl and only had 1 loss. And, they took the Commanders to the playoffs the first year, even though they were below 500. And this team can go to the playoffs again this year. I just don't think he's a really good coach anymore, and he's taken a step back. And this Commanders team, we'll see what Howell could be. You take a glance at the situation he's in. I like Jahan Dotson. I love Scary Terry and Terry McLaurin. You got a good running back in Brian Robinson Jr., who's easy to root for with the horrible things that he had to go through last year. And you have a defense that on paper has a really good front seven. But you look at the appeal of this game, the Bears are a disaster. The Commanders' ceiling is just being a good team this year, not a great team, like maybe the final wild card spot for the Commanders. There's not a lot of reasons to watch this game. So when you get to the conversation of the Bears and the Panthers, the 2 teams that don't have a win, who has the better chance of not getting a win the entire season? It's actually the Carolina Panthers. Now, either way, the fact that this is a conversation for the Bears is a good thing, because we know the Bears are going nowhere this year, and they have their own number 1 pick. And they do have another first-round pick because of the trade back in the draft with the Carolina Panthers, so they have the Panthers pick. So the fact that this is a conversation, even though right now it doesn't appear to be a win for the Bears because you don't want to have your season already over on the 5th day of October, but it is a win because you're going to have 2 top 5 draft picks in 2024, and you could have the number 1 and number 2 pick in the draft. But the reason why I think it's more likely that the Panthers don't get a win this season compared to the Bears. Because even though Justin Fields is not all that, at least you have something exciting on offense with DJ Moore. I look at the Panthers. You have a bad offensive line that started to look good last year, and now they've regressed. You have an overpaid running back in Miles Sanders, who I don't think is all that good. And I thought he was more of a product of a system last year in Philadelphia, and he's been more disappointing than someone that I think of, he's someone that I need to go extol and give many words of praise to. And then at the wide receiver position, you don't have a number one wide receiver. DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, like if this was Adam Thielen 4 or 5 years ago, sure. But we keep on hearing the Panthers are linked to wide receivers. I read something today that they're trying to get Marquise Hollywood Brown, who is more of a 2 in this league than a number 1 wide receiver. So I just don't see enough firepower and pop with the Panthers where, sure, I got to believe with the division that the Panthers play and they're going to get a win. And the Bears will find a way to win 2 games, 3 games, whatever it is. And that's been a clown show and that's been a circus. But the Panthers have nothing on offense that makes me jump up and down right now like I'm a fat kid in a candy store, or really makes me want to watch them. The only thing they have is their quarterback, Bryce Young. And yes, Bryce Young last year at Alabama, he showed you he could win with less, but it's a totally different ball game when you go to the NFL and you have nothing. And my biggest fear with what Bryce Young is at right now in Carolina, and I think Bryce Young could be a really good quarterback in this league. I'm a fan of Bryce Young. But Bryce Young is in a bad situation right now, where Frank Reich, he's a nice guy. He did some good things with the Indianapolis Colts, but I can't overlook the last 2 years. I really can't. His teams last year got outscored every game in the first half. He never went into the locker room last year with a lead. And then Jeff Saturday, who only won 1 game, comes off the set at ESPN, and he had a lead up against the Raiders. And you look at the way the team did not respond to him in Jacksonville 2 years ago, the quarterback decision, trusting Carson Wentz. Frank Reich is just someone to me that he could be a good head coach. I don't think he's a great head coach. I think he's better suited as an offensive coordinator in this league. But I look at what the Panthers did this offseason. Steve Wilkes, what he was doing was working. And if you told me that they got a can't-miss hire, and I know now we look a little bit differently at Sean Payton, but if they got Sean, yeah, I understand why you don't bring Steve Wilkes back. If they got Jim Harbaugh to come over from Michigan, I understand why you bring Steve Wilkes back. But I thought the hire, and I said this at the time, of Frank Reich was like, underwhelming. I don't need Frank Reich as the head football coach. And I would have rather have gone with Steve Wilkes over Frank Reich, because Steve Wilkes in the interim showed what he was doing was responding in the locker room. And the Panthers now have not carried over to where they were from a year ago, and they look lost, and they look like they're a pathetic football team. And it's not as if you could at least latch on to the hope of, you have this great draft pick coming in next year to assist Bryce Young, because you traded away that first-round pick to go get Bryce Young in the draft. And I just hope that I think from afar, people look at it and they go, Carolina's a fine situation because you have Frank Reich there and he's not going to mess up Bryce Young. With what I saw the last 2 years, I don't feel all that confident in Frank Reich. And this situation in Carolina, it's really bad. And I don't think people are talking about it enough, because the Bears have been a circus where Fields is going to be gone after this year. Eberflus could be gone by this weekend. Ryan Pohl's probably not going to be the general manager next year. And you had the whole issue with the defensive coordinator that's still ambiguous, and we don't really know what's going on. And then you have Fields walking into his own mess with what he said about the coaching staff. So that's got him more national play and national pop, because it's something we've seen the last few years where the Panthers are more new with Frank Reich in year 1 and Bryce Young in year 1. But I just really hope that the Panthers, with their offensive line being in an abysmal state, no number 1 weapons to throw the football to, and a running back room led by Miles Sanders, who's overrated, I just hope they don't mess up Bryce Young in his first few years, where and then in 3-4 years from now, it's like, the Panthers are back to picking a new quarterback because Bryce Young got killed because he's undersized. So I don't think the Eagles are going undefeated. I don't think the Niners are going undefeated. I got to think Carolina or Chicago is going to find a way to win a game this year. But if you ask me right now, who's the better, or this is a weird way to word it, but who's the team out of the Bears and the Panthers that have a better chance of having no wins? I would say it's Carolina compared to the Bears. And in terms of the Eagles and 49ers, even though I think the Eagles are a better team, with the way that the schedule breaks down, and slightly a better team than the 49ers, I do believe the 49ers have a better chance because I do think they have a more favorable schedule in terms of the timing of their tough slate. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We'll take a break here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. When we come on back, we got to chat a little bit about the quarterback position in the NFL. Drew Bledsoe played for the Patriots. There's questions about Mac Jones. I don't think he's the guy. The Cowboys have a big game coming up on Sunday night. Does Drew Bledsoe think his old team and the Cowboys have their guy in Dak Prescott? And also, Drew Bledsoe, who also played for the Buffalo Bills, was at the Bills-Dolphins game. So we'll get his reaction on Buffalo's big statement victory in their blowout performance at home in Orchard Park up against the Miami Dolphins. So a whole lot to do. Off and running here until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And when we come on back, Drew Bledsoe will join us, former Pro Bowl quarterback in the NFL.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Chris calling in Florida next up on CBS Sports Radio. Chris, what's happening?
Zach, what's happening? I love your show tremendously. It is the best national show around. I love my local shows, but you are the best.
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. We're waiting on Drew Bledsoe, the former Pro Bowl quarterback, to join us. I want to play you, though, a few cuts here from Jonathan Taylor, who did address reporters today as he's back practicing with the Indianapolis Colts coming off the PUP list. This is Jonathan Taylor and all the back and forth this offseason.
Number one, the whole time, the main goal was to be healthy. Everyone in this whole thing, the main goal was to be healthy, to go out there, to be able to do what I love, which is play football. So just going through that journey throughout this whole time, been a lot of things said and done, but at the end of the day, the number one overall goal for everybody was for me to get healthy. And I think everybody was on the same page with that one.
And my just biggest question here was, if he got rewarded with the big deal this offseason, would he have thought he was healthy enough to get back on the field? Because it was a long recovery time from when he got the surgery to where we are now. Here's one more from Jonathan Taylor on if he is committed to the Colts.
I don't think it matters on if I'm saying I'm committed or not, because I'm here. I mean, if somebody wasn't committed, they wouldn't be here. And right now I'm here, and my number one goal is to really attack this first practice. When you're not doing what you love, you're gonna notice it.
And that's the big thing. Now he's back in the building. He's practicing with the team. You expect him to play in their next game, but without having the contract, how all out is Jonathan Taylor going to go? And that's going to be something to monitor, as the Colts have been off to a surprising start, and I like what I'm seeing so far from Anthony Richardson when he's on the field. All righty, let's go out to the guest line right now. Welcome in a former Pro Bowl quarterback, played with the Patriots, the Bills, and the Dallas Cowboys. And that, of course, is Drew Bledsoe, always kind enough to join us right here on CBS Sports Radio. Drew, appreciate the time. How you been?
I'm doing great, man. I'm actually out in Boston currently and hanging out here. Obviously, interesting time for the Pats out here, but hopefully they'll bounce back and figure some stuff out.
Yeah, so you know me, I'm a Patriot fan, and I've now lost confidence in Mac Jones. I don't think he's been put in a good situation, but it feels like this marriage is just never going to work between Mac Jones and Bill Belichick.
Well, it's tough. It's tough for Mac because they're not giving him a ton of help right now, and when you're playing that position and things aren't great around you. I mean, they were set up to be a team that was going to run the ball and play defense, and now it's looking like they're going to have to score some points. And I'm not sure that they're quite set up to be that high flying offense that they apparently need to be right now.
And last year, right, the Patricia Judge experiment, if you want to call it that, was a disaster. This year, you get Bill O'Brien, but don't have a number one wide receiver for Mac. It just feels like Bill has failed him. When you look at that, do you see just Belichick continuously failing him?
Well, I don't know if it's that. I'm just not sure that they're, they were set up this season to try to just play great defense, run the football, and win low scoring games. And now, especially with Judon hurt and their young superstar corner from Oregon hurt, I think it's going to be really hard for them to lock teams down And with the offensive pieces they have in place right now, I'm not sure that they're set up to win some high-scoring games.
And you know what the standard was in New England, and fans now aren't used to this with the run of excellence that they had for 20 years. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they navigate this. Drew Bledsoe here with us. What advice would you maybe give to Mac Jones right now?
Well, he's got to persevere. It's playing quarterback in the NFL it's hard. And when things are good, it's a hard job, and when things aren't good, it gets really, really difficult. And what you have to be able to do is just show up, go to work, do your job, and continue to push to improve every single week. And so he's got to be able to do that, and hopefully he can do that without losing his confidence, and hopefully he can rise above. I don't know what's in front of them for the rest of the year. I think it's going to be a tough one, but hopefully he can make it through with his confidence still intact so that he can continue to be a good player in the future.
Everyone's wondering how warm of the seat it is for Bill Belichick. Do you think there's a chance Kraft moves on from him at the end of the year?
I don't know. They've had such an amazing relationship now for, I think, 24 years. This is the 24th season they've been together. Nothing lasts forever. But Bill's still one of the greatest of all time, and I think it's pretty hard to move on unless you can find somebody else that has his resume, and there's no other resume like his. So I don't know what the future holds for him, but I know that this year has been tough. The last couple of years have been tough on everybody. Kraft and the entire organization is used to being on top, and I know Bill's in the same boat. He's used to being on top as well, and for them to not have their level of success, I think it's been really, really, stressful for everybody.
Talking to Drew Bledsoe, I saw last week you were at the Bills game, Bills-Dolphins, and the night before you had a pretty cool dinner with Dan Marino and Jim Kelly. What could you tell us about the dinner? That looked awesome.
You know what? It's funny, man, because I'm 51 years old, but those guys were my heroes growing up, and I had posters of those guys on my wall. They were drafted when I was 11 years old, so the funny thing is that, I go do that, and I just turn into a 12-year-old fanboy again, get to hang out with my heroes. Those guys have always been incredibly gracious, to me and to everybody else around them. But, yeah, getting to sit down and have dinner with them and tell some old war stories is really, really fun, and they're just great dudes. Plus, we drank some good wine, so that worked out well.
Yeah, how's the wine business going these days for you?
Wine business is great, man. We're having a ton of fun with it, and we've got a. You talk about teams. We've got a championship team at the winery, man. We've got just a great team all the way from the vineyard, through the whole process. It's making that one a lot of fun, because we just continue to try to get better every week. It's pretty fun. So it's it kind of goes back to football speak. I think our team gets tired of me talking about it, and giving them football terminology, but they're kicking ass and taking names, and we're having a lot of fun.
Talking to Drew Bledsoe right now. What an impressive performance that was, Drew, from the Bills. Going into this season, people were wondering if they're still a Super Bowl contender. They have that bad performance against the Jets in Week 1. The Dolphins red hot. And you just once again see how great of a quarterback Josh Allen is and how lethal of a wide receiver Stephon Diggs is.
Josh is very special. I mean, he's at the very, very top of the game, probably an MVP candidate. But the thing that makes me excited about what I saw from the Bills, from the standpoint of the Bills fans out there, is that they are now Bills have to put everything on Josh's shoulders. They're running the ball more effectively. Their defensive front looks exceptional. They were able to get a lot of pressure on Tua without having to blitz a bunch. And when you can do that, man, that's a recipe to be really successful, for the rest of the season.
We all know your history, and unfortunately you went through a horrible injury with the Mo Lewis hit. When you look at Tua, his concussion problems were well documented last year. Tua is lighting it up on the field, but mentally I wonder the toll that takes on a quarterback. Just not that it was a similar situation, but what you went through, just what kind of advice do you give to Tua maybe?
It's when you're in the middle of it, you're just focused on what's in front of you. You don't really think about your mortality when you're young and in the middle of it. My deal put me in the hospital for, 5 and was out for 6 weeks before I could do anything. But all I was thinking about was getting back on the field. So, it's something that, you look back on it as an older person, and you're like, oh man, that was a pretty crazy situation. But when you're in the middle of it, you're just focused on the next one, and you're still 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And I know that's where Tua is right now. He thinks he's bulletproof, and he'll just continue to play. But hopefully, they have the people around him that are going to make sure, that was the scary thing last year was they allowed him to go back into that game when he was obviously not in great shape. So hopefully they have people around there now and all of these teams that are keeping guys from going back out there when they're in harm's way.
And let me ask you about the quarterback, Drew Bledsoe, for a team that you wrapped your career up with in the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott, big game this Sunday night on NBC in Santa Clara up against the San Francisco 49ers. When you view Dak Prescott, do you think he's someone that is capable of winning a Super Bowl in this league?
Yeah, I really do. And he's a talented football player. He can throw it. He can run it. But the thing that I appreciate the most about Dak is, you watch the way that he leads his team, and you watch the way that guys react to him. He's a guy that is a natural leader that guys really want to play hard for, and there's, that's one of those intangibles that is rare. Where not only are you a good player, but you make the guys around you play better and play harder. And I think that's something that really separates Dak. When he got hurt a couple years ago, you saw the outpouring of support from his entire team, and that just lets you know how well respected he is. And so I think. And you talk about a team that's playing great defense, man. They're getting after it. Micah Parsons is just unstoppable. I think that they're going to be in the mix. But this is a heavyweight fight, between them and the Niners. That's strength on strength. That's going to be a great one to watch.
And when we get to the other quarterback, Brock Purdy, the big debate right now, is he a product of the system or is he really that good in a franchise quarterback? Where do you lie on that in the small sample size so far?
Oh, it's both. They're a very, very good team around him. He's got another MVP candidate in the backfield with him, and that makes life easy for a quarterback. They're playing great defense. That makes life easy for a quarterback. But he's doing the best that you could ask for, within that system. Now, is he going to go turn into Patrick Mahomes and carry a franchise? He's probably never going to be that guy. But in their system, he's very, very effective. He's very efficient, doesn't make mistakes, doesn't do any of the things that are going to hurt your team. So you start there first. But I just think it's a really, really cool success story, one of those underdog stories that, that we all fall in love with. Kid was he Mr. Irrelevant? I think he was the last pick, wasn't he? So you see a guy that was at the very, very end of the draft, looking to be a journeyman and hopefully hang on for a few years. And now it looks like he's going to be a starting quarterback in the league for the years to come. So it's just exciting to see that underdog story.
Last thing I'll ask you, Drew Bledsoe, I have to go into the college world and talk about your Washington State football team. You want to talk about a great story, Cam Ward. We had him on last week, no-star recruit, FCS school to start, and now dominating with Washington State and looking like a dark horse for the Heisman. What has impressed you the most with Cam Ward?
Man, he throws it different, man. The guy has got a big arm. He's really accurate. He's mobile. He can move around, but when he's moving around, he's still looking to get the ball downfield. He's got his eyes up. I think that team really has a chip on its shoulder right now, getting left out of, everybody else in the Pac-12 except Oregon State has bailed. And so I think they really feel slighted, as they should. And so, the entire team out there right now is playing great football. And there are a bunch of, there's a lot of guys on that team that are like Cam Ward, where they were under-recruited, overlooked by other programs, and they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. And I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with the rest of the season.
You also have to love all the quarterback play in the Pac-12 because the Pac-12 was disrespected going into the year because everyone was leaving. And you have Caleb Williams, Shedeur Sanders, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. We talk about Cam, DJ Ungolay. We go on and on and on with these quarterbacks. It's incredible to just see the depth of quarterback play in this conference.
It's really exciting, and it also makes it all the more sad, that 12 is the most relevant it's been in probably at least a decade, and it's the final year. So that just makes it sad, man, that, the Pac-12 is so exciting to watch right now, and it's the last year of its existence, at least in this form. But it's really fun to watch this year, and we're going to enjoy the heck out of it while we can.
Well, Drew, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. You be well.
Right on. Take it easy. See ya.
There you go. Drew Bledsoe joining us right here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Let's get the latest CBS Sports Radio update in with the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, Thursday Night Football gives us a matchup of two coaches in the hot seat, with the Commanders hosting the Bears. Washington is new ownership, which puts Ron Rivera in the crosshairs, with the Commanders 2-2 following back-to-back losses, including one in overtime to the Eagles. They have an excellent chance to get back on track tonight with the Bears winless, and Matt Eberflus 3-18 since taking over. There's been talk he could be coaching his last game if it doesn't go well tonight. Eberflus doesn't pay any attention to that.
You know, in this business, you know, I've been doing this 32 years, right? So I understand the business, but I understand that to do it right, you got to focus on your job, and you got to focus right here, right now. So you can think about a lot of different things that's going to do nobody good, and you focus on your job where your feet are right now.
Jonathan Taylor back at practice for the Colts after looking to get out of Indy. He was asked if he still wants to be there, and he answered, "I'm still here, aren't I?" Billy Epler steps down as Mets general manager. The move comes 3 days after David Stearns was introduced as the team's new president. The baseball playoffs resume Saturday. The Sixers' Joel Embiid has committed to Team USA for the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, at home, in your car, and of course on your phone and tablet. Find us on your local affiliate, SiriusXM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
So you know the passion of Bills fans, Jim Kelly. It's really second to none. And it's an unbelievable town and just such great people, too. And it's all about football, food, family, maybe a few drinks here and there as well. If they could
table break.
Yeah. Have you ever gone through a table, by the way?
No way, and I don't plan on doing it. I'm 62 years old, and I've had enough surgeries. I don't need any more.
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. At Zach Gelb at CBS Sports Radio is the poll question where you can find it today. Do you view Brock Purdy right now as more of a system QB or a franchise QB? We've done a complete 180 because last time I read this, system QB was at upwards of 70-something%, 53% now at franchise QB, 47% at system QB. I also believe what Drew Bledsoe just said, even though it's not one or the other, could be the best answer. That it is like a little bit of both. Because you look at him right now, he's in a great system. Shanahan's a phenomenal offensive mind. They have a great offensive line. You have Deebo Samuel, you have Brandon Ayuk, you have an MVP candidate in Christian McCaffrey, and you have a great tight end in Kittle. You know, if Brock Purdy is on the Patriots or if Brock Purdy is playing football right now at the Carolina Panthers, he's not putting up these numbers. But it doesn't mean that Brock Purdy isn't deserving credit. And I was very careful with how I said it earlier. Like, if I had to pick, I go more system than franchise, just because it's not a large sample size. And also, by design, Kyle Shanahan believes his system is more important than who the quarterback is. And maybe one day Brock Purdy can turn into the franchise guy. If you win a Super Bowl this year, you know, give the middle finger to the question, who gives a rat's ass, as long as you win. But right now, I would say that it's more the system than it is Brock Purdy. But there is something to be said that Brock Purdy has looked like the best quarterback compared to the other guys that they've trotted out there, whether it's Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, whoever else they had starting for the San Francisco 49ers. So the best way to say this is right now I would lean more system than franchise, but we've seen a lot of quarterbacks that have come out of nowhere and have had these good starts to their career. They age, no pun intended here with Drew Bledsoe coming on talking about wine, but they age like fine wine. And they get better with age. And look at Tom Brady. Brady, when he first got in the league, he was game manager. And that's coming from the biggest Brady fan there is. And then as his career developed, as he moved on, he became the system. He became more than a game manager and clearly becoming one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But there is part of him with the Niners, you know how good they are. You know how great they are. And just the one question you have is Brock Purdy the real deal over 17 games? And so far, he's been the real deal through the first 4 games of the season. And it's going to be fun if we go on this collision course where it's Eagles and 49ers meet in the NFC Championship game to see how that's going to play on out. Because we know how ugly, how messy, and how contentious it's become with those fan bases. Real quickly, guys, let me ask you on the other side of the glass. You can jump into the conversation as well, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. I do believe Drew Bledsoe probably had the best answer that I've heard about this, where it's a mixture of both. But if you had to pick right now on the poll question, do you go that Brock Purdy is more of a system quarterback or a franchise quarterback? I'll start things off with Stu. Stu, go ahead.
I think he's more of a franchise quarterback. I think going into the season, I probably thought, okay, it's Shanahan, it's the system, it's everything around him, all of the talent. But just watching these past few weeks, I think he's kind of picked up a gear, and I think he's someone that if he went to a different team, he could still be successful. Maybe not as successful in terms of wins and losses, but someone who can be a competent top 15, let's say, top 12, 15 NFL quarterback.
And I'll also say this. I talked to Steve Young, and I've said this before, but I talked to Steve Young before the start of the season. And he said Brock Purdy has the force, where he goes, you know he has it. You don't know what it turns out to be. You know it's moving in the right direction. Now there's different levels of it, and we'll see how great he can become. And ultimately, we'll see the first step of that this year and then into future years. It is crazy, though, even though I'm more so on the system side here. After all this moving that the 49ers have done, that it was the last pick in the draft and where they found their guy. Like, you look at Shanahan, you look at Lynch, any other GM or coach in the league goes on and takes a quarterback 3rd overall and moves mountains and risk other years of draft capital to get him. Any other coach and GM would get fired. But the fact that they, bare minimum, feels like they wake up each and every year in the NFC title game and found the guy that has the fan base believing is their guy, it saved them from really any backlash and any severe criticism in Trey Lance, and that being a failure. Because any other team that moved mountains to go get Trey Lance and then barely didn't even give him a shot, like the guy barely got on the field for like 2-3 games, we would be crucifying the GM and the coach. But because they found the way to somewhat get it right or make people believe that they got it right with the quarterback, that they could win a Super Bowl this year, it really exonerates Shanahan and John Lynch from the humiliation of swinging and missing and moving up to go get a guy that clearly Shanahan didn't really believe in. It was more of a Lynch draft pick.
And the thing about Lance is we don't know necessarily if they swung and missed. They wouldn't have traded and given up on Lance if they didn't believe so heavily on Purdy, right? So,
Fair.
Yes, they got lucky that they got this guy, Mr. Irrelevant, in the 7th round, but had Purdy not been there, had Purdy not stepped in because of injuries and shown out the way he did last year, Trey Lance would be their quarterback right now, and who knows? Trey Lance might be 4-0 also. They might still be the best team in the NFC or one of the best teams and a Super Bowl contender with Trey Lance. We don't know. So I don't look at Trey Lance as a failure. I look at it as they stumbled upon a guy who just happened to be better than Lance, and so therefore they had the luxury of getting rid of Lance. It's not like the Jets who drafted Zach Wilson, who sucks, and now they're screwed. They had to go out and trade for Aaron Rodgers.
When did Rodney Harrison come in studio? I didn't know we were having Rodney Harrison today as an in-studio guest.
Well, listen, you heard me rip the Giants. I'm just as harsh on my former team, the Jets. But you ask if I think that Purdy is a franchise or a system quarterback. I look at Purdy, and listen, I'm not comparing them, but like the way Brady and Montana are called quote-unquote system quarterbacks because they succeeded under certain coaches, Bill Walsh, Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Just because they succeeded with great coaches and great systems doesn't mean they were just a system quarterback. They were great in that system, but they would have been great anywhere else. Just like Montana was good in KC, and just like Brady was great and won a title in Tampa. Brock is great in Shanahan's system, so he's a system quarterback by definition. However, I'm very confident from what I've seen from Brock Purdy, if you put him on most any other team, as long as they're not a dumpster fire like maybe the Bears, he's going to succeed.
So I'm not ready to go all in with Brock Purdy yet. I do think it's heading in the right direction, and that's a big point of mine where it almost as if people think like I'm trashing Brock Purdy when I say this, or if a system quarterback, because it does have a negative connotation where you're trying to take some credit away. But I'm not ready to say that if he went to New England or if he went to Carolina or, even, like the Washington Commanders that are like a decent situation, that we'd be talking about him as a franchise quarterback. He shows signs of it. He has not lost a game yet. And I just want to see the longevity-wise if he will play himself into being a franchise quarterback. And that's my biggest point here, is that I just need to see more. And I'm not crushing the guy. I think the guy is a good quarterback. I'm not ready to say he's a top 10 quarterback. But ultimately, the conversation becomes irrelevant if you win this year. Because, right, people say this in a different conversation. Oh, I don't like the way how this team traded for this player and signed this guy in free agency. Oh, put an asterisk on the championship like with the Golden State Warriors. You think any Warriors fan is at the parade saying, man, Kevin Durant joining us, and even though it made it so unfair, oh, you know what, this championship is not genuine. If you win, all the fodder after that becomes irrelevant, and it goes in one ear and out the other. But just to circle back to your point on Trey Lance, because I think it's a good point that you bring up, Samter. And I just want to be clear about this. Trey Lance in San Francisco was a failure in terms of they drafted him to be the guy to kind of be the Mahomes that he was in Kansas City, where you had Alex Smith and you had Jimmy Garoppolo, and those guys can win you games, get you in the playoffs, take you far, but you're never going to win a Super Bowl with. And then they drafted Mahomes to be that next guy to elevate them. That's what Trey Lance was drafted to do. That failed in San Francisco. But when I talk about Trey Lance individually, it doesn't mean he's a bust yet. Because you go back to that draft class, Trevor Lawrence looks like he's well on his way. Zach Wilson, we know, is a bust. Justin Fields and Mac Jones are both trending in the wrong direction. And I do think they're going to be on new teams soon. And then they'll kind of be thrown in that Sam Darnold category. Was it more of the bad teams that they were on, or was it more of the lack of individual play? And ultimately, time will tell what the answer is on that. But when you go to Trey Lance, it's the craziest part is we've barely seen the guy play. Because when he was supposed to be the guy last year, the first game was a monsoon in Chicago, and then the second game, he got hurt. So now we'll see if he ever gets that opportunity. And there was a thought before the season, if Dak struggles with the Dallas Cowboys and the uncertainty there with the contract in Dallas, maybe they'll go to Trey Lance and maybe they'll give Trey Lance a burn. Or if Dak gets hurt, they'll throw Trey Lance onto the field. Most likely, Trey Lance is going to be starting a lot of games, if any games at all, for the Dallas Cowboys. And I just wonder, when does Trey Lance get another opportunity? Because it's one of those situations where, like, remember Josh Rosen? Josh Rosen was on like 8,000 teams, but he was never going to start once it didn't work out in Miami. And I wonder for Trey Lance, do we get to a point where he ever becomes that starting quarterback consistently again, where he's given that opportunity? Because the facts are Trey Lance had one monster season at North Dakota State. Most of us didn't see him play. Then his final year at North Dakota State, it got wiped out because of COVID. I believe he played in one game. In year one, he wasn't designed to start in the NFL. In year two, he was designed to start. Then he got hurt, and now he's on year three, and he's not going to start games this year unless Dak gets hurt. And even if Dak does get hurt, they may go to Cooper Rush, because Cooper Rush won a bunch of games last year for the Dallas Cowboys. So I just wonder, because even though he hasn't been out of sight, because we've talked about him a lot, but we haven't physically seen him play, if almost the career of Trey Lance is like already over, where the guy's just going to jump around, be a backup quarterback, and be on a practice squad and never gets that opportunity to start again. And it's a great unknown, and it's a great question of what Trey Lance could be, because I can't say that he individually is a failure yet in the NFL. The experiment in San Francisco clearly failed, but we never got to see him play at all for a long, sustained amount of time. And it's going to be one of those things where I just wonder if we're ever going to be able to really see him be a starter for like a 4, 5, 6 game stretch. And then you could evaluate and make your decisions based off that. So it's just one of those situations where and this is maybe the drafting flaw that we have right now. We know the NFL is a copycat league. And every year there's a guy in the draft that draws comparisons to Mahomes, if not multiple, where they're not saying they can be Patrick Mahomes, but like a Zach Wilson or a Trey Lance, this guy could be 65, 60% of Patrick Mahomes. And usually when you play that game, it's all based off potential, and potential means you haven't done it yet. And you're setting the bar so high, it's almost as if you're setting up these players to fail when you're saying they could be 65, 60% of a Patrick Mahomes. Zach Gelb here with you on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a break. I got 5 bounce-back teams coming up in Week 5. We'll get to that next. Don't go anywhere. Zach Gelb here with you on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, away we go. Hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. We do kick off week 5 of the NFL season tonight with a wonderful matchup, if I may say so myself, with the Bears going up against the Commanders. Woof, woof. This is not a game that really makes you want to run to the TV set. I will say this, though. This is the type of game where Roger Goodell goes, man, too bad Taylor Swift isn't dating like Sam Howell. Or too bad Taylor Swift is not dating Justin Fields. Because you're going to need more eyeballs to the TV set, or I guess streaming with Amazon, to get people to really pay attention. I'll give you more of my breakdown of this game later on in the hour. I'm picking the Commanders. I'll tell you that right now. I'll give you the play on the spread coming up in about 40 minutes, though, from now. But you look at week 4, and you want to see which teams are going to bounce back in week 5. You had the Miami Dolphins get blown out by the Buffalo Bills by a score of 48-20. You take a look at the Green Bay Packers. They started week 4 last week on Thursday Night Football, and they lost in their own building, and the game was never competitive by 14 points. You then see the Cincinnati Bengals, who just got dominated, and that calf injury with Burrow is still impacting that team, but the Bengals lose to the Tennessee Titans by a score of 27-3. You see the New Orleans Saints. They had an awful showing where they couldn't even register a touchdown against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then you take a glance at the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, we had Nico Collins on from the Texans earlier in the week, and Nico Collins had 2 touchdowns in the game and did have over 150 yards receiving in that 30-6 victory for the Texans up against the Steelers. So we look at those 5 teams, and the Dolphins play the Giants this week. The Packers play the Raiders. The Bengals play Arizona. The Saints play the Patriots, and the Steelers play the Ravens. And we're trying to see those 5 teams, who's going to bounce back this week. You look at the Miami Dolphins. It's perfect timing coming off your only loss of the season and what was a horrible performance for the Dolphins up against the Bills. You're in Miami, and you're welcome in the New York Giants. Does anyone have any confidence in the Giants right now?
I do.
Oh, yeah, sure. You're the biggest critic. Like how William Hung can't stand Simon Cowell on American Idol. That's how Evan Neal probably looks at you right now with the New York Giants. He probably thought you were flipping hot dogs and flipping hamburgers. Also, can we address the elephant in the room on those comments? And I know I talked about it in a very serious talk show host-like way earlier, where I didn't want to say justified Evan Neal's comments, but talked about how he's a 23-year-old kid and how he grew up in a social media era, and this is the first time in his life he's ever had anything probably negative said about him by the majority of people. But when you make a hot dog, Samter, does anyone flip a hot dog? I've never heard of that term, flipping a hot dog. Flipping burgers, sure, but not flipping a hot dog.
I mean, the only way I'll eat a hot dog is if it's in a boiling pot of water, like at a baseball game.
Really?
So like a grilled hot dog, I don't care if you flip it, if you turn it, if you spin it, if you throw it in the air, drop it on the ground, covered in dirt, and throw it back on the grill.
This is a hellacious take.
No, you got to. It's ballpark Franks in hot water. That's the only way to eat them.
Wait. I consider myself a man's man. And I envision in the summer, the grill, and you have to have your hot dogs on the grill, some sausage on the grill.
Sausage, yes.
Also, burgers on the grill, and then maybe some lamb chops, too, if you want to get a little bougie. Everyone likes a good lamb chop. But you're telling me that if let's say, I invite you over, we have a barbecue this summer, and I put a hot dog on the grill, you will not eat it?
I wouldn't even go near it. I wouldn't even look at it.
No.
I might even boycott the rest of the food that may have been near it or touched it while on the grill.
Stu, I need your help here because I almost feel as if CBS Sports Radio makes it their mission to surround me with idiotic producers who eat like a bunch of 3-year-olds when it comes to the food department.
No,
like Hot
I eat
Take Hickey,
everything.
Like Hot Take Hickey had some of the worst food takes I've ever heard a human being formulate out of his mouth and try to spew into a microphone. You can't do this, you can't do that. Not putting a hot dog on a grill and only consuming it in boiling water. That's a terrible job by Sour Take Samter.
Yeah, that's awful. At a baseball game, it's one thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, it reminds me of like grade school where it'd be hot dog day and it'd just be like disgusting and rubbery. Like, no.
So, Samter, you prefer the New York City dirty water dog.
Oh, my God, yes.
Compared to,
oh, yes, please.
Let's say putting a nice wiener, a nice Hebrew National right on the grill, have it glistening.
Ugh.
You would rather just have someone dip the tongue into the dirty water.
Can't wait.
And out they grab a wiener and they put it right on your plate where you then consume that wiener.
I mean, I might actually go right now and just hop downstairs and see if I can find the closest street vendor and grab one right now. That sounds delicious.
Jeez.
Absolutely. However,
that's
if
an
we're
all-time
grilling
bad take.
burgers, steak, chicken, and wursts or different kinds of sausages, all for it on the grill, just not a hot dog. Because a hot dog is not real meat. So you might as well go.
What are you talking about?
Hot dogs are just a combination of just random junk thrown together into a little packaging, and it's nasty.
What do you put on your hot dog?
2 things and only 2 things, and that's it. Mustard and sauerkraut. Those are the only 2 things that belong on a hot dog. You put ketchup on a hot dog, never talk to you again.
Now, you haven't even discussed what's the best way to consume a hot dog. What type of hot dog?
What do you mean, what type of hot dog? Hebrew National, for sure.
No. The best hot dog is the pig in the blanket for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
I go to a wedding, I go to any event, if they have pigs in the blanket, it's the great unifier in our country. You could be Republican, you could be Democrat, it doesn't matter what religion you are, it doesn't matter what race you are. If you put a pig in a blanket in front of someone, it brings everyone together and it's instantly the best appetizer. I personally enjoy pigs in a blanket more than just your traditional hot dog, a big dog on a bun and with your sauerkraut and your ketchup, your mustard, whatever you want to do. I am personally more of a pig in a blanket fan than a hot dog fan.
Sure, I can go with that. I'm not a huge hot dog fan to begin with, but pigs in the blanket are fine. But if I'm at like a wedding,
like 30 of them too.
If I'm at a wedding or like some sort of a catered event, and pigs in the blanket is the creme de la creme of the hors d'oeuvres, get me out of there. That's awful.
For my sister's wedding, it was the one thing that I made sure was there. I said, I don't care how many photos you want me to take. I don't care what the drink selection is. I don't care who you sit me by. I just need a pig in a blanket. And I was a very happy customer. Anyway.
You sound like a 12-year-old.
No, I don't. I just sound like a logical human being.
Do you also like chicken fingers?
No. Well, I do like chicken fingers, but I don't go out of my way to say, I can only eat it like Applebee's and get chicken fingers on half-off apps. No, that's not
I can
me.
just see you sitting with a paper plate with some chicken fingers, mac and cheese, and pigs in the blanket, and you're happy.
No. I eat very well.
And a Capri Sun or maybe some apple juice.
Samter, I'll go get you a kiddies meal, and I'll get you a kiddies toy, all right?
All about the Lunchables, baby.
Lunchables were a good high school snack. There's no doubt about that. I love me some Lunchables. Anyway, get into these teams this week that identified that need to bounce back. Dolphins going up against the Giants. There's no doubt about it. The Dolphins should crush the Giants. The Giants are going nowhere this year. They're on their way to 1-5. They're on their way to a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, maybe top 10. 5 may be too harsh, but you look at the Dolphins, it's a perfect get back spot and get right spot with Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle. The Dolphins have speed. The Dolphins have a lot of star players. You look at the Giants' offense. We'll see if Saquon Barkley comes back this week. Daniel Jones doesn't really intimidate anybody. Darren Waller, he's a good tight end, but he's just so up and down, and he hasn't really clicked yet with the Giants. I believe the Dolphins could absolutely destroy the Giants this week. Packers and the Raiders. I think this is a week where we learn a lot about the Packers. The Raiders are no good. The Raiders are no bueno. But for the Packers...
Stu's about to start crying.
Well, I'm just being truthful here, and Stu would agree with this.
He's not wrong.
And, Stu, you agree. The Packers should beat the Raiders this week.
Multiple touchdowns, like 10, 14 points.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. And I don't know if Garoppolo's playing. We'll see if Garoppolo plays this week. I don't think that really moves the pendulum one way or another. But it's safe to say the Packers should beat the Raiders this week. I'm not saying blow them out. I'm not saying embarrass them. I'm not saying just absolutely destroy them and emasculate them. But if the Packers are moving in the right direction, you should be able to beat an inferior football team. And even though we don't know what the Packers are, if the Packers lose this game, I'll be out on the Green Bay Packers for the rest of the season. And I like that defense. I like Kenny Clark. You look on the offensive side of the ball. Now Watson's back. You got Dobbs. A.J. Dillon I'm not a big fan of, but Aaron Jones is a good running back in this league. You should be able to beat a Raiders team that has no defense outside of Max Crosby. And on the offensive side of the ball, they have Devontae Adams. The coach doesn't know how to use Josh Jacobs, which is crazy to me. And you have underwhelming quarterback play. The Bengals. This game actually scares me for the Bengals this week. Because the Cardinals aren't any good, but the Cardinals at least give you a good first half effort. If the Bengals can't score points, though, in a 60-minute game against the Cardinals, we got big-time problems in Cincinnati. Now, I don't think they're going to rest Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is going to play in this game. And then you have Seattle, and then you go into a bye week, and you got to win these next two games. You got to find a way to get to 3-3 and salvage your season. But if Jamar Chase doesn't get in the end zone this week, I may never bet anytime touchdown on Jamar Chase ever again. Because the last 2 weeks, I thought it was a lock he would get in the end zone after not scoring the first 2 weeks of the season. Wrong on both. And no, that wasn't the emergency alert system that everyone got yesterday as well, which gave everyone a scare right at like 2:20 p.m. Eastern yesterday when they were testing it. But you got to think the Bengals are going to be able to score points. But the Cardinals are a team that through the first 4 weeks of the season, we all know they're not good, but they're going to be giving you a great effort. And you just wonder how long that could last, because I think the Cardinals have fed into no one believes in us, very similarly to the 2019 Miami Dolphins, where everyone's saying you're going to be the number one overall pick, and you surprise some people. How long can you carry that momentum? Saints and the Patriots. This may be the biggest 50-50 toss-up game of the weekend. The Saints are overrated. I don't trust Derek Carr. He's dealing with an injury right now. You have Alvin Kamara back. Michael Thomas is a shell of himself. Chris Olave is a really good wide receiver. On paper, that's a good defense. But the Saints are a team where I don't think they could win this year. They could only lose. Like, even if they win the NFC South, everyone's reaction is going to be, oh, yeah, the Saints should win the NFC South. If they go win a playoff game, that's a different story. I don't think the Saints win a playoff game this year. But when you look at the Saints, I'll trust teams like Atlanta. I'll trust a team like Tampa Bay more than the Saints. And now you go into New England this weekend, where the only thing intimidating about the Patriots is going into New England and just the aura about the Patriots and Foxborough. But that's what it once was. Now this defense doesn't have Matthew Judon. They don't have Christian Gonzalez. This is a defense that's going to regress because of that. And on offense, you're going up against a bad offensive line, a bad quarterback, and no wide receivers that are any good. If the Saints can't put up 21 points this week and walk out of Foxborough with the victory, I was never in on the Saints, but there's no reason then to believe in the New Orleans Saints. And then finally, this is a tough one this week. I know Kenny Pickett may be inching towards playing, and it's one thing for him to say it, but we'll see if he actually does play. But this is a bad spot for Kenny Pickett, if he does play, to be going up against the Baltimore Ravens. I know the Ravens have been decimated with injuries, and you look at this game, both teams, their defenses have been pretty damn good. This seems like it's going to be a slugfest if Pickett does play. Both of these quarterbacks are going to go up against these lethal defenses. I trust Lamar Jackson, obviously, way more than Kenny Pickett. I don't think the Steelers bounce back this week against the Baltimore Ravens. I love the Ravens this week in kind of a low-scoring game where it's going to be physical on both sides of the ball defensively for both of these offenses. But how can you trust the Steelers' offense right now compared to the Ravens' offense when they do have Lamar Jackson? So those Week 5 bounce backs, I expect the Dolphins to bounce back against the Giants. I expect the Packers to bounce back against the Raiders. I'm hesitant on the Bengals, but ultimately their talent does prevail up against the Cardinals. Saints and Pats, I guess I'll pick the Saints by a field goal. And then I think the Steelers continue to go the direction the Patriots are going in, which is the wrong direction, and the Steelers will lose to the Ravens this week. Who's going to bounce back this week in the NFL that lost in Week 4, that will win in Week 5? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We'll come on back. We'll update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We call this segment the News Brief, but the Zach Gelb Show, we'll take a timeout first, and we'll come on back in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Rob Manfred, we have been told he is great at labor negotiations. Oh, he's awesome behind the scenes. This guy doesn't do a damn thing well for the sport. He stinks. He's awful. He's the worst commissioner I've ever seen. And trust me, I don't like Goodell, but Goodell runs circles around this clown in Rob Manfred, who's ruining Major League Baseball.
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Let's update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We get to the news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Let's start off with Dolphins defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. He got some pushback this week when Stephon Diggs was going off against the Miami Dolphins and had 3 touchdowns for the Bills, on why he didn't have Xavier Howard shadow Stephon Diggs for the entirety of the game.
We gave Diggs a lot of attention, obviously, and not enough, as far as schematically. In hindsight, maybe, but I really don't feel bad about that decision. I mean, I have confidence in Cater, and it didn't work out. But the second guessing was justified.
So let me translate that to you in the coaches speak. That is him saying he got it wrong, and they should have shadowed Stephon Diggs with Xavier Howard, but you have to understand the circumstance. The corner that got abused by Stephon Diggs is a second-year corner, and I don't think you want to ruin that kid's confidence, so you're not going to come out and publicly say, yeah, I definitely got it wrong, but when he said the second guessing could be justified, is him basically admitting he got it wrong, but not wanting to ruin the second-year cornerback's confidence. Let's go to Cam Newton. How about this comment? So Tyreek Hill said in his next career he wants to become a porn star. So Cam was asked about that, and he revealed something about his junk. Listen up.
I don't want to be no porn star. God blessed me with a lot of things, but he ain't blessed me with no hammer. I got 2 inches of straight venom.
Okay, no.
Oh, no.
Nah, that's a
Hold on. You said, hold on.
Had I been given a hammer, I wouldn't be wearing my pants right now. I mean, I got a lot of confidence, dog. And God knew what he was doing when he made me. And he said, no, we're going to give him all that confidence. We're going to give him all that swag. We're going to give him all that height, body composition, all that. But whoa. Make it average.
All righty. We have to have a serious conversation about that. You think he's just having that conversation for clicks? Or do you think that's a genuine conversation that Cam just had?
I think that he is a brilliant mastermind when it comes to the ladies, because he has now done 3 things. He's gotten girls thinking about it, he's gotten girls curious about it, and he's also gotten girls lowering their expectations. So if they do ever actually see it, it can't get any worse than what they're expecting. Cam Newton is a genius.
Mm-hmm.
He is confident, and I'm sure he's doing all right in that category to have that level of confidence. But brilliant. Man's a brilliant man.
You just put in the YouTube chat a poll question here. Do you believe, Cam, that he has a small hammer? Man, the standards for CBS Sports Radio just went from like here to all the way down here.
Well, see, I don't actually run the chat for CBS Sports Radio in the chat.
Is that Stu?
It's not. It's nobody. There's a third party somewhere in the building.
Big Brother's always watching?
Someone's always watching. I don't know who wrote this, where this came from, but it certainly wasn't me.
I didn't think Stu had that in him. I don't think it is Stu. I still think it's Samter. But Cap is always watching us with these cameras. There'll be days where Cap will just send me photos when I'm doing my show. And I'm like, I didn't even know this camera was on. So I'm going to lean that that's Samter in the poll question. But what I will say about this, I don't think Cam is lying, but maybe when you're in a locker room with a lot of other guys that have bigger hammers than you, it still doesn't mean that you have a small hammer. Just compared to the environment that you're in, you may wish you had a bigger hammer compared to the other players that you're comparing to, maybe in passing when you see the other grown man in the locker room in the shower, I guess is what Cam's saying. But Cam comes off as someone that has, and I got to remember we're on in the afternoon and not in the evenings anymore, as BDE, right? You would think Cam has BDE, but he basically just told you he only has, what did he say, 2 inches of venom?
That, I don't understand what that even means.
He's saying he only has a
Well, I
2-inch
understand the 2 inches part, but what does the venom mean? Is he going to kill somebody?
No, I just think he knows, maybe it's not how big it is, just how you use it.
Listen, he's come up with a lot of euphemisms for that thing between a hammer and venom. So who knows?
All right, we'll move on. I'm trying not to get fired here. Marshawn Lynch on why there's no relationship with Russell Wilson. This is on the Club Shay Shay podcast with Shannon Sharp.
I didn't with Pete, and then Russ was like just a quarterback for me.
You didn't have no type of relationship? Y'all didn't kick it like that?
I respect Russell as as a player and as a teammate. Mm-hmm. Anything that I say is gonna come off as malice or as if I'm a hater or. Right. But as far as anything else, it's like
y'all didn't have a relationship outside of football.
No, there's no. Can't pick up the phone and call old boy or nothing.
So I don't think Marshawn Lynch likes Pete Carroll because he probably feels as if, right, some of the conversation has been that the reason why he didn't get the ball is because they were trying to get Russell Wilson the MVP, and then the interception happened with Malcolm Butler. So I understand why he doesn't like Pete Carroll. And what you hear a lot more from these Seahawks players is they all say, like, oh, we're not rooting against Russell Wilson. But then you saw last year how all the Seahawks players danced on the grave of Russell Wilson. I think it goes back to the way that the defensive players thought that Pete Carroll treated Russell Wilson differently and coddled him compared to where Pete had a higher standard and was more critical of the defense because they were the Legion of Boom. They were this all-time great defense. Whenever they didn't have a great game, Pete was probably more critical on the defense than he was in terms of being critical if Russ didn't play well. So none of this surprises me, and we kind of saw it last year where Pete got back in the good graces of some of the players because they all gathered together in kind of celebrating, whether it was internally or publicly, the failures of Russell Wilson once he left the Seattle Seahawks. Here is Gilbert Arenas on his own show, The Gilbert Arenas Show, as he rips the Heat culture.
Y'all can get Dwight Howard because he's trying to get back in the NBA, so that type of culture he's going to go for. But a star player who's been in, like, they've seen what it is. Like, you're not going to get KD. You're not going to convince KD to come there and go through, like, I'm a professional already. Like, you trying to break me not to go to South Beach, that ain't me.
Well, LeBron joined Heat culture. Chris Bosh joined Heat culture with Pat Riley being there. I don't think it's made for everybody, and it's more conducive to someone like Jimmy Butler that then it enables Jimmy Butler to become a top 10 player because he buys in and has a similar thought process of Pat Riley. But do I really need to hear Gilbert Arenas lecturing people on culture? Like, I don't think that's the best source on lecturing people on culture.
And it seemed like Dame Lillard was pretty okay joining that culture as well.
Yeah, because Dame Lillard is the perfect fit for Heat culture. He's a guy that I know that you could say maybe it got all dramatic, but forever he didn't want to request a trade because he thought he was going to look bad. And everyone knew he wasn't going to look bad. A guy like Kevin Durant, yeah, maybe he does butt heads with Pat Riley because KD is all about the power and KD wants to control the organization. But LeBron James is very similar, right? LeBron goes anywhere and he gets to call the shots, but that wasn't the case in Miami because there's some guys that I don't want to say have more clout than LeBron because no one in the NBA has more clout than LeBron. But with what Pat Riley did, LeBron respected it. And remember, LeBron tried to get Eric Spoelstra fired, and Pat said, no, that's not happening. I'm not coming back to coach. And you kind of saw Pat won out against LeBron, and then ultimately LeBron left and used some of the things that Pat Riley said as motivation, whether he wants to admit that or not. Michael Malone, the coach of the defending world champion Denver Nuggets, on the Lakers yapping back and forth in media days. This courtesy of ESPN.
Oh, they're talking about us? Yeah. That was like 4 months ago? Yeah. I can't speak for anybody in LA. I can speak for the 17 players on our team, 18 players now in our group. But if they're still worried about us, that's on them.
So there was a lot of back and forth. Even Stu could attest to it between the Lakers and the Nuggets. And this all goes back to the Nuggets were annoyed even when they were winning and even when they were dominating the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron makes it the story. Oh, who knows what my future is going to have here? And then you have every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the media the next day. 855-212-4CBS. Is LeBron going to retire? Is he leaving the Lakers? And we all knew LeBron was just trying to deflect from the fact that he got swept. And he floated out some uncertainty, as I say that in air quotes, about his future. So I don't anticipate the Nuggets to love the Lakers, nor should they. And I think this is actually good for the NBA. Because here's what annoys me about the NBA now. And this is part of LeBron's fault, too. Everyone tries to be friends with everybody. Everyone's buddy-buddy with everybody. And it drives me crazy. I'm not saying you have to hate people and you have to really have all these contentious relationships, but it's okay in sports to have rivalries. And if this is a rivalry, I'm all for it and I'm all good with it. And even though Jimmy Butler was a little bit wacky at Media Day the other day, he's using Damian Lillard not going there as a way to kind of fuel up this rivalry between the Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks. And he's going after the Bucks coach, and he's saying he doesn't like him, and everyone knows that about him, about their time in Chicago. And he's going to kind of use this as motivation and also say, oh, the Bucks were tampering, which we all know that they weren't. There's no way to tamper here, at least that I could figure out in this situation. So I think some of this, I don't know if hatred's the right word, but friction and back and forth is good for the NBA. Because it drives me nuts with the NBA when it's like, oh, this buddy-buddy league and no one actually gives a you-know-what about the regular season. Here is Sean McDonough, and he was on the play-by-play last night where the Rays barely had no one in the building for an elimination game. They had no one in the building for their first game in the wild card, and he ripped Rays fans. This is courtesy of ESPN.
Ground ball not hit very hard, but that's going to get through into center field for Robbie Grossman. And on to third goes Seager. And some boos starting to come down from the group. I'm not sure we could call it a crowd. The group here at the Trop.
Now, I saw that he got some blowback for this. Are we really that sensitive in society now? The goal as the play-by-play person is to tell you what's going on. Now, you could add some color to it. You could be a little bit more bold than maybe the button-up broadcaster. And I'm a big fan of Sean McDonough. I thought Sean McDonough was excellent on Monday Night Football. I don't love him for hockey, if I'm being honest. But college football, I think he's tremendous when he has that voice crack, too. Touchdown! I absolutely love that. But Sean McDonough going after the Rays fans last night, it's 100% spot on. I know that they were disappointing in the playoffs. They got swept out. Every team got swept out this year. That lost, and the wild card round's already over, and we wait for Saturday for baseball to pick back up with the division series. But you look at that Sean McDonough comment, if you're a Rays fan and you're annoyed by that, have more fans show up. And it's embarrassing when you have a team that's been so good for so long and that stadium is empty. That's pathetic. And I don't like to advocate moving a team because if I was a P1 fan of that team and I had someone on the radio basically bloviating about, oh, that fan base doesn't deserve a team, it would drive me bonkers. But when you can't even fill a building or come close to filling a building for a playoff game, like, you don't deserve the team. And if Major League Baseball wants to rip the Rays out of Tampa, I would have no problem with it. All right, let's go to Teddy Lehman, who used to play at Oklahoma, I believe. And he has thrown some shade here at Quinn Ewers, courtesy of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Eichert and Lehman.
I think he's average. I think the offense creates a bunch of really good opportunities for him, and he's good at those, but I don't think he has elite arm talent. I don't think he has elite athleticism.
Man, if you're saying that, and I know is he, Samter, he's what, on the Oklahoma broadcast team?
Yes, he's an analyst for Oklahoma, and he obviously has his podcast. And he's a former linebacker for the Sooners.
So associated with Oklahoma, gets a paycheck from Oklahoma, but I'm not saying that he's on the team right now. Even though he gets a paycheck for Oklahoma, it's not like a player or coach saying that. I think that's a little bit harsh, especially with the way that Quinn Ewers dominated up against Alabama. And say what you want about Alabama this year. Their offense is not good, but they do have a good defense. If you're going to say that, you better have Oklahoma win this weekend. And this is a big statement for Brett Venables. This is a big statement for Dylan Gabriel, too. I thought that was a little bit too harsh on Quinn Ewers. I don't think Quinn Ewers is great. I don't think he's going to be a great pro. But he's been a good college quarterback, and he's showing that this year with almost 1,400 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, only 1 interception, and having the best win of the season in college football going into Tuscaloosa and beating the Alabama Crimson Tide by 10 points. But I can't wait. That adds more fuel to the fire here for Red River this upcoming Saturday at noon between Texas and Oklahoma. All righty, we'll take a break here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will come on back. We'll give you a thought in the game tonight between the Commanders and Bears, and also we'll get into the latest with James Harden. But actually, before we get the update, let me just quickly go to Jack in Tucson. He's on hold right now, 855-212-4CBS. He wants to, I guess, enlighten us on the hot dog debate that we were having earlier, where Samter was saying he only likes the dirty water hot dog. He can only boil hot dogs. And I'm like, okay, you get the hot dog on the grill like any other sane human being. Jack, what's happening? Good afternoon.
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. What's on your mind?
All right. So I've been a cook since about 1996.
Okay.
I've cooked from San Francisco to New York.
Mm-hmm.
I love a dirty water hot dog. But whether you're in Shore Hills, Verona, you're doing catering, if you don't have a pig in a blanket, it's not a party.
Thank you.
I'm just saying.
I'm 100% with you.
I hope you have a great day. Love you guys' show.
Wait, Jack, I have one quick question here for you.
Go ahead.
Were you made aware of what Evan Neal said yesterday? Just wondering.
I was not. I did not hear that. No.
So Evan Neal, offensive lineman, formerly of Alabama, now plays with the Giants. The Giants stink. He's getting booed left and right. And he said, why would a lion concern himself with the opinion of a sheep? The person that is commenting on a performance, what does he do? Flip hot dogs and hamburgers somewhere? Or someone that's in the food industry? Yeah. How does that make you feel, Jack?
I didn't take it directly as a comment on the food industry. I took it as a person who had privilege and was speaking down on others. And for what? Like, these people pay your salary and show up, and how much do they pay for those PSAs and those tickets?
Yeah,
like,
PSLs,
really?
yeah. Yeah, good phone call, Jack. Appreciate the time. Thanks so much. All righty, we'll come on back. We'll wrap up the show. Thought in the game. Also get into James Harden as well. But standing by first with the latest CBS Sports Radio update. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, Week 5 of the NFL season opens tonight in prime time, but not necessarily a primetime matchup. The 2-2 Commanders host the winless Bears after back-to-back losses to the Bills and Eagles. Tonight represents a great chance for a Washington turnaround, but Terry McLaurin won't take the 0-4 Bears lightly.
Records, to me, really have never mattered, no matter who you're playing. That's why they say it's any given Sunday. So you got to give the respect to each team and each opponent that you play. You got to focus and prepare as if it's the most important game of the week for you.
Jonathan Taylor is back with the Colts after an ankle injury and a standoff with the team. As for his trade demand and previous desire to be elsewhere, Taylor said he's here right now, and if somebody wasn't committed, they wouldn't be there. Joel Embiid is committed to playing for the United States in the Summer Olympics in 2024 in Paris. reportedly telling Grant Hill and USA Basketball he will be a part of the team. Mets general manager Billy Epler stepped down after 2 seasons. The announcement comes 3 days after David Stearns was introduced as team president, and Epler said he wanted Stearns to start with a clean slate. The baseball playoffs take a couple of days off. The division series will open Saturday. I'm Rich Acker.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, Perloff, at home, in your car, and, of course, on your phone and tablet.
Maggie, you can find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. We're the Backstreet Boys, and you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Today's memorable moment is sponsored by Prevagen. Prevagen is the most recommended memory support brand by pharmacists. The Commanders lead the all-time series against the Bears, 27-24 and 1, and have dominated of late. In the last 9 matchups, Washington has won 8 times, including last season, where they won 12-7. In that game, Justin Fields was sacked 5 times and only completed 14 of his 27 passes for 190 yards. I may be mistaken, but I also thought that was a Thursday night football game as well. It kind of feels as if that was another one of those early season disaster Thursday night football games for Al Michaels, where, Al, welcome to Amazon for year number 2 with Prime Video, and you get this matchup, I believe, once again. And to give you a thought on the game tonight, I don't even know if I'm going to bet this game tonight. I have to watch this game. But I look at this game, this is an ugly, sloppy game. And I have no expectations for the Bears offense. The Bears offense is non-existent, if we're being fair. And the Commanders, I think, are a solid team that at best this year go 9-8, maybe 10-7 if everything goes right, but probably 9-8, and they could be the 7th and final seed in the wild card. So I guess if I had to make a play tonight, I take the under. And I hate betting unders because then you're watching a game and you're rooting for there to be no points. And when you watch football, sure, we could all find at times a good defensive battle to be intriguing, but we want fireworks. We want explosions. We want points. We want touchdowns. So I'd probably play the under tonight. And I don't see, and maybe this is a sucker bet because everyone's going to look at this and go, oh, the Bears stink, so lay the points with the Commanders. And then maybe the Commanders, right, in their 2 victories, it's by a combined 3 points in the margin of victory. So you probably should plus the points here with the Bears, but I'll be a sucker like everybody else tonight, and I'll lay the 6 points. If I had to make a play on this game, I would go Commanders minus the 6, and then I would also take the under here of 45 points. But this is a hold your nose type of game. And this is, if you have a sleep mask, maybe you just lower the sleep mask and you try to pass out during the game and just listen. Really be like an old man, like my Papa Eddie. Towards the later years of his life, he would sit on the couch in the recliner chair, actually, and he would lean back, mouth open, start to snore, and then you would change the channel of the game, and he'd be like, I was watching that. I'm like, Grandpa, you've been knocked out cold for about an hour. So this is one of those games where you could doze off and then wake back up and hope that you're in the 4th quarter with 2 minutes to go and hope it's a game.
You know what's going to happen? This can be must-watch TV tonight.
Well, Booker McFarland once said, or it may have been Al Michaels. It was one of the two. Sometimes...
Same.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's not like I'm about to quote something historical. But one of them said, sometimes a game is so bad that it actually could be good and entertaining, if you know what I'm saying. And that could be tonight between these 2 football teams where the Commanders are in a much better spot. But their ceiling is just being the 7th and final playoff spot, where the Bears are destined to be the 1st and maybe 2nd pick of the draft because the Bears also have the Panthers pick. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Look at what Samter started here with his terrible take about hot dogs. That you can only boil hot dogs, and if you put them on a grill, you're an animal. And like the entire nation. Hold on, wait a second. We all put our hot dogs on a grill. Let's go to Matt in Alaska. He wants to chime in on the hot dog conversation because he's a big hot dog aficionado. Matt, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on, man? You know, hot dogs are my second favorite food, only to be one-upped by the versatile taco. So the two best ways to eat a hot dog are to leave them on, you know, you get the real cheap ones, like 99 cents a pack from the grocery store, and you leave that meat-like product in a rubber casing on the grill for 2 or 3 minutes too long until it gets nice and charcoaly, and so you got that nice little smoky flavor to it. Second best way is go to your roadside highway gas station and wander to the back.
Ooh.
Get one off the roller.
Yeah, the roller's a great call. Everyone's got to love a roller hot dog.
So you know, you got to snap through that rubber casing to let all the goo and all that good flavor out. You know, those are the best two ways to eat a hot dog. Anybody that's boiling a hot dog, well, I guess they just don't know much about the finer things in life, like a burnt hot dog and a gas station dog.
Gotcha.
That's all I got, buddy.
Matt, I appreciate the time. He said boiling a hot dog well, correct? Is that what he said?
Yes.
Okay. I thought he said something else.
No, he said boiling it well.
Okay. I thought we got pranked there for a second. Then I said, oh, he said boil. But that's just maybe where my mind is in the gutter.
No, but he's not wrong that burning a hot dog to a crisp on a grill is the only way to actually eat it off a grill, because then you can actually taste how disgusting it is.
Have you been to one of the most famous hot dog places in America?
Nathan's?
No. Well, that is one of the more famous hot dog places, but it's not the one I was talking about. Rutt's Hut in New Jersey?
No.
Rutt's Hut is a legendary hot dog place. They call their hot dogs rippers. Now, I never knew this until recently, that they have a cremator dog as well. And it sits in the bottom of the grease for the entire day. And at night, you could go in there, or, I think the place is open almost pretty close to 24 hours. So they just have a bunch of hot dogs that have been sitting down there, and they pull it out and they serve it to you. That is the cremator hot dog at Rutt's Hut. I've never tried it because I've just gone with the Ripper and a well-done Frenchie. That's a French fry. And then also a cup of chili from Rutt's Hut.
I've never understood hot dog places, right? There's burger places all over the place.
Well, there's a place in Chicago that I'm dying to go to. It's called the Wiener Circle. And at the Wiener Circle, it is a 24/7 type of joint, and they just dehumanize you when you walk in. So you have people cooking hot dogs, and they'll yell at you, they'll curse at you, they'll freak out at you, and they'll just treat you like you're a piece of crap. But they'll just go on and on and on and yelling at you, and it's one of those drunk, fun places that I've heard just seeing the videos throughout the years at the Wiener Circle in Chicago.
Yeah, there's a couple places like that around, which it's kind of fun. It's more fun when you bring somebody who doesn't know that that's what the shtick of the place is, and they go in there and they just think that people are being rude, and to see the look on somebody's unsuspecting face is fantastic.
So I've never been there, but one of my friends was in Chicago, and I just told my friend, you have to go to the Wiener Circle. And then he texted me, he goes, what the heck was that? All right, real quickly, one final thought before we get on out of here. James Harden. I'm so sick and tired of James Harden. I can't stand the guy. The guy's a Hall of Famer. We all know that. But come the postseason, the dude isn't clutch. He's a pain in the ass. And let's also be clear about this. James Harden only cares about partying now. James Harden only cares about going to the strip club and going to the buffets. He does not care about the entirety of the regular season and winning a championship. And now he's mad at Daryl Morey. He goes to China. He says Daryl Morey is a liar. I'll never play for the Sixers. He's going to show up to training camp. He's going to be a problem. He's going to be a pain in the butt. And here's my question. If James Harden is still so attractive in his own mind that all these other teams are going to want him and he wants to force a trade out of Philadelphia, why has no one taken the bait yet? Why has no one traded for him yet? Because there's really only one destination that he could go. The Heat aren't bringing him in. He's the antithesis of Heat culture, right? The Bucks and Celtics already made a bunch of moves. Really, the only place that he could go is L.A. And I'm not talking about the Lakers, even though LeBron's buddy-buddy with everybody, so maybe he would take on James Harden. But it would be the Clippers. And James Harden would fit the Clippers culture, where they don't really care about the regular season. Make your own schedule. Show up when you want. Load management. Go out and have a good night on the town. And then we'll hope everyone can be healthy and make a nice little postseason run. So, I'm just at the point now where I could sit here and I could scream and yell until the cows come home about James Harden. But it's a waste of energy. Because this guy is a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about it. But he's always left me thinking that there could be more to James Harden. And I just don't think his motor and I don't think his drive is there. And it's the same old playbook all the time. He goes somewhere. He makes it look like it's a good situation to start, whether that's in Houston, whether that's in Brooklyn, whether that's in Philadelphia. And ultimately, he reaches an expiration date and he takes zero accountability and he becomes a pain in the rear end on the way out. All righty, that is a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show. We'll be back tomorrow for a big Football Friday show as we get rocking and rolling Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 p.m. Pacific. Big thanks to each and every one of you for calling, listening, and tweeting. Also like to thank the passionate crew in the YouTube chat that have been called by the show that used to be in this time slot, the Weedos and the Purple Drankers. We'll see what we'll call them moving forward. Great job out of Samter, Stu. Also like to thank Drew Bledsoe. We'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.